Trying to have it all there.
Right?
Trying to have it all.
Have to have it all. Gotta have it all. Pokemon. Hi everybody. So we were talking for probably 15 minutes before I realized I didn't actually push the live button.
And
That's not
and I'm well. I mean, I didn't even know there was a live button, so I can't even fault you for that.
Yep. No, I have to, because you have to push live, but then you have to push the other live button.
Mm-hmm.
And nope, that didn't happen. But hi everybody, we're just gonna jump right into what we're talking about. Miss Martin, thank you for the $20 super sticker. It says you are amazing, and it's a dancing pear. You are amazing, madam. So we've been talking for a hot minute, and ladies and gents, this is what we've been talking about. Katie Couric, media, went ahead and delivered this something of an article. All right,
It's something of an article.
It's
so
something.
Yeah. So I just wanted to go through and just sort of break this down paragraph by paragraph, because it's a lot.
Yes.
I have to say, when my girlfriend sent it to me, I wasn't even able to get it through it in the first sitting. So this is from back in April about this phenomenon of these trad wives, which I had not even really heard of.
Nope.
And so the real trad wives of 2022, why more young moms are becoming traditional housewives. Trad wives are women who celebrate the return to traditional gender roles of the 1950s, and they want you to celebrate too. And you said something really good to that effect, which was like, I was like, how I didn't see in there how they were doing that.
Yeah, they're not celebrating it. They're just sharing it, but because they're sharing it, these people who project everything assume that you are doing the same thing. Also, I would like to point out, they always go back to the 1950s, like women were never stay-at-home wives prior to that, or
after that,
or didn't work prior to or after that, or during, like, until like 2016 when women finally got jobs, except that's not how that went. And it's just, when you read these articles, you really see how they just, the concept of like women and men both working, like both parents outside of the home working, is a relatively new phenomenon.
Yeah. If you're a mom on Instagram, or really any person on Instagram, it's almost guaranteed you scrolled past a few extremely content-looking women who resemble something out of Pleasantville. So she's saying they're a parody, but in color, and some of them kind of are, but in color and in the 21st century, they're toting a few kids, maybe baking, table scraping, sewing, and simply flaunting their contented marriages.
I still maintain that that's I think she's jealous. I don't think she's content in marriage.
Well, to me, it's like flaunting their contented marriages. So
Right?
It's like, oh, okay. So are they just not happy in theirs? Like, it just seems like a weird projection.
Mm-hmm.
And them flaunting it. But I mean, people say that about simple things, like somebody posting a picture of their fancy dinner, like they're, the food flaunters. Filthy food flaunters, trying to say that, or your pool, or your this or that, or your glamorous lifestyle. So here you have somebody who's like putting the baby down for the nap and making bread, and they're flaunting. Like, okay, but it's like in the world of social media, like there's a big difference between somebody who's like flaunting their killer lifestyle and their fancy cars, and somebody making bread.
Absolutely, 100%. And like, there's nothing wrong with being content. Like, you do not have to be miserable in this world to have some kind of impact. Like, I don't understand why people are so hell bent on like, you have to be miserable, otherwise, you're not trying in life. It's like, no, that's not true.
Yeah, how dare you be happy? It's so that yeah, it's absolutely true. And it's like and I mentioned that it's like I manage multiple social media accounts, and this article had to be sent to me by somebody because this is was not on my radar at all.
Yeah, I have never heard of this, and I love all of that stuff. Like, I do the Hallmark movies. Well, not so much anymore since they like went intersectional, but I can't wait for GFA or GAF to get up and running and started and going. But the like I will literally I'll watch short after short and reel after reel and video after video of like, this is how I organize my bookcase. This is how I like fold down the covers. These are the different ways that like I layer the coverings. And like, I don't know why I'm fascinated with it, but I'm also like, woodworking, I love it.
Yeah.
Baking bread, I love it. I just like,
you know what
things.
Yeah, I got really into watching cleaning hacks.
Yes.
Oh my God, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, we can agree on that one. Because we moved to this house, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to clean because I mean, honestly, there's an interesting dynamic that sort of happened for my particular like Gen X thing, which is most of the guys in my age group, Gary included, most of the guys in my age, they had stay-at-home moms. So they didn't learn how to really cook or clean or manage a schedule and send out Christmas cards or like any of like that kind of homemakery kind of things, right?
Yes.
And so, but my dad and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but my dad didn't raise me to be so I also didn't learn how to really cook or clean. So it was like, because he was like, no, we're gonna name you, we're gonna have your nickname be Mel. He goes, he literally told me, you're not going to need to know how to do any of that because you're not going to be a housewife. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. Cause I wasn't really that into it. Like, and I mean, I didn't learn how to cook until I got married the second time. And cause I was married to somebody who didn't know how to cook at all. So I was like, okay, we can't eat out every night. Like with a toddler and stuff, it just wasn't realistic. So with the help of like my favorite housewife client, she started giving me like tips on like, Melissa, you can do this. And I also like, this is my boss clientele. So one of my clients that had a cooking show regularly on the Today Show and her own cookbook and stuff gave me like her cookbook and was like, use this. Like, this is totally the cookbook for you because it's like bake a couple things, buy a couple things, put it all together. Boom. Like I was like, okay. And it's an amazing book. I'll have to share it with you sometime, but it's old now by my client Donata. And it was just like that perfect thing. So, I digress. So you see what I mean? So there was this dynamic where it's like, neither of us really knew how to have a household. So
yeah,
and he was used to somebody taking care of all these like household chores, and I was used to somebody like fixing everything, which he also, he didn't do that either. So we had a lot of discrepancies, and I kind of wish and if I could have like one more conversation with my father, it would be like, how is it that you married all these like very domestic kind of people and wanted to have a housewife, but then raised me to be so independent that it's like a contradiction household.
I'm so I don't know. Like, that'd be an interesting conversation to have for sure.
Yeah, he had these women that just like doted on him and then raised me to be the opposite of that.
I don't know. Maybe he thought that no man would be good enough for you, and so you would have a housemaid. Like,
well,
you would have a housemaid.
I think he thought I would have somebody who did that, like somebody domestic who did that. So those women who you might have stumbled across via social media could be trad wives. The term is portmanteau of the words, you guessed it, traditional and wives. And they don't just live online. These are real women who seem to have traveled through time, having revisited the 50s and brought some of the elements of that era into present day. There is a subculture of housewives, and they're really proud to be homemakers. Are they not allowed to be proud of what they do?
The snark.
Are they not allowed to? Yeah, it's almost like, and I know it says like Katie Couric News, but I'm like, did you read this before like it put this out? Like, I don't know. I'm like, so they're not allowed any pride in what they do?
Oh man, right? Like you have this, what we talked about, like, how is a trad wife sharing their bread baking or their cleaning hack or their organization or their whatever, just
see
like
how they are. See how
yeah.
they are.
Like, what's the difference between that and these TikTokers who are like, a day in the life of a tech worker in Chicago, and then it's just them eating food for free all day?
I haven't done that. I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, you need to go watch Papa Gundam's videos on him. He's got 3 parts. And oh my God, your stomach will hurt. Like, you will have abs after those videos because you will laugh and cry simultaneously so hard.
At the gluttony.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like the disconnect of. So she's like, okay, so I wake up and I've got to get into the office and I need my morning coffee and it's in the lobby. And so I grab that really fast. And then the drink of the day, which is like this boba tea infused, whatever. And then of course I grab my breakfast, which is, and it like the breakfast is like, it's like steel cut oats with fruit medley mixed in and some honey and some Greek yogurt. And then she runs upstairs to go catch a meeting. And then she goes to lunch. And then she goes and takes a break from her stressful day in the quiet room where she can take a nap. And then she goes and plays ping pong. Girl, I'm telling you, it's unreal. And
yeah, and to me, Gundam, that is such a big flaunt. Like, it is
like she. Honest to God, what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do if your tech company goes under? Because tech companies go under all the time. Like, what are you going to do when your tech company goes under and you have to go somewhere and you have to actually put in some work? You have no skills and you have no experience. And like, you're used to being
like, you can't even make bread.
You can't even make bread. Yeah, exactly. All these women feel like I'm this high powered.
Oh my God, that person is not even middle management. That person is a cog who, if they didn't show up to work, nobody would notice because they don't really contribute that much. Like, it's pretty, it sounds very small. The world became familiar with trad wives because of many of them celebrate their values. Why is that underlined? With the world at large through social media channels like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. They create communities through hashtags like TradWife and use these channels to provide tips, tricks, and explainers about their lifestyle. Because housewives are such like an alien phenomenon that we needed explained to us.
Apparently. Well, remember, these people only know how to tell. They don't know how to show. They're trying to see, because what's happening right here, like, tradwives because many of them celebrate their values, and the reason that's underlined is because it's not values that align with the liberal agenda, like, at all.
Which is basically talking shit about staying home and trying to have any pride in
your own children
and organizing a household and raising your children by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And like, making bread.
Look at this. So these are hollyhocks, and they're some of my absolute favorite flowers. And also, that apron is adorable, and I love, like, see, I don't have time. This is probably one of my biggest. I have enough to make myself, like, obviously you want to look presentable. You want to look your best. But sometimes you can't do your best. Like, I cannot put this outfit together every single day because I don't have time.
Oh,
Because
see, I look at that and I go, oh, she just set her hair before bed and just brushed it out in the morning and put some lipstick on. Like, that's actually not that hard to pull off.
see, but you're a hairdresser.
Yeah, I'm a hairdresser though. So yeah, let me
I lived in ponytails for 17 years.
Yeah, so let me interject to that by saying, like, as a person who was a hairdresser for 30 years, I've met a lot of women from many walks of life.
Mhm.
And I've had a lot of my clientele, because I was in San Francisco, a lot of my clientele is like very boss. Like, they are COOs and CEOs and entrepreneurs. And like, I have like these very like the boss babes. I didn't have a ton of like housewives. So when we, over COVID, when we moved to San Diego, and everybody was like, are you going to do clients down there? And I was like, what am I going to do? A bunch of SoCal housewives? Because that's, I'm like, and you know, and not that that's bad. It just wasn't, it's just not my thing. Like, that's just not, I wouldn't even know what to say. Like, we wouldn't have a conversation, but not that we had to. But I will say, like, as adorable as that picture is, right? And I have a few cute vintage aprons myself. Her little caption is not, it does not appeal to me at all. Because she takes something, you know, it's like when Mike Rowe does his pencil talk, it's like she almost takes this apron, which is really like a simple sort of thing, and she makes it into this whole big political statement. And it is pretty self-important. So I believe it represents something absent in today's culture. Recondition that femininity is sacred, mystical, honorable, and worth of protection. Aprons are not about the kitchen as much as they are about biological function of the woman. Usually we understand aprons as something made to protect finer clothes underneath, but that's not the original purpose of the garment. You see it specifically in my cultural heritage in pre-revolutionary Russian attire. Here, the apron was the most embroidered, most intricate piece of a married woman's costume, often adorned with the heaviest around the womb. The purpose of the embroidery or other decoration was spiritual protection, and that's why it would normally find place on the borders of the garments and on the edges of the sleeves, the neck. The notion that the decorative border as protection is still very much present in our culture. Most of the plates we eat off have decorative border, the original purpose of which was meant to protect us from any evil entering our bodies with food. So I guess that's like an evil eye sort of function.
I guess. So it's, this is, I know what she's referring to because the Russian Revolution wiped out religion. Like, people like, but St. Petersburg still exists. Yes, St. Petersburg is there, but Russia is an atheist nation. It's an atheist country. They don't practice religion there because it's you had the USSR, and did religion make a comeback? It has, but it's not what it used to be. And when the SARS fell and the USSR rose, they had to get rid of all religions because it was a challenge to their power. So I get what she is saying, but also,
so it's got a little woo woo to it.
Yeah, like, this is, I totally get it, and I'm there for it. Like, I'm there for understanding and knowing your roots, but to redirect it in this manner to make it political as opposed to an apolitical symbol, and just tell it, like, she could have just told the story without being so self-righteous.
Yeah, it's a little, it does, let's just say pretentious. Like, it comes off as a little pretentious. Like, you know, it's nice to be like proud of your heritage, and it's like, you know, and I think that maybe that's what they were considering, being really prideful about it. But she makes these aprons. Like, it's her tradition. It's like part of her culture. If she goes way back, and, you know, and it's something that's that she doesn't want to let go of. Like, okay, well, good for you. I'm like, it is a pretty cute apron. I mean, if I needed an apron for something, it's like, that might be a good thing, but I would be using it to protect my clothes or wear it as a costume. It wouldn't be something, it's like a dirndl, right? It wouldn't be something that I wouldn't look at it quite as deeply. But I think she wraps it up pretty well, where it's like, I made the aprons not only a part of my style, but hand making them with my little business. So, and there she's like, got this little tiny bit of self-deprecating, my little business. Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, well, it took you 5 paragraphs to tell me about your little business. Like, that's it. That's
hey,
cute.
but like, that's a marketing strategy. Brevity is the soul of wit, folks. Remember that.
Yes. Yeah.
So she probably, like I said, there were other ways she could have kind of gone around it, but like, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I actually talked with Disbrew a little bit about this. I was a tomboy from like out of the womb, out of the gate. I was a tomboy. I know, right? It's just like, I lived in ponytails for 17 years, and then I joined the Marine Corps, and it is so hyper masculine. Like, the military itself, but especially the Marines, is so hyper masculine that your femininity, like, screams to come out. It just blossoms, because like, when
being around all that testosterone, you're like,
oh,
I feel funny.
Well, and it's not, well, kind of, but it's also not even that. It's like the more masculine the men get, the more feminine the women get. So it's like, as you start to sort of like be around all of that hyper masculinity, and it's, I mean, oh my gosh, it's just like, go, 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 lift, throw, shove, kick, punch, do it again, roll, eat tree bark, roll again. And you're kind of sitting there and you're like, you know what? This has been great, and I will continue to do this. Like, let's go kill these guys that need to be killed. But like, after that, can I please go like put lotion on my hands? Like, it sounds so silly.
I need massage. It's like, a beauty emergency.
No, but it does. Like, when you say it like that, you're just like, oh my God, first world problems. But like, no, if you talk to men who are in the field, like, the one thing that helps brighten their day in the field, and this is men, it's like 99.2% of men in the military, they will tell you they just want a good cup of coffee. Like that, they just, like, when this is all, when this is all said and done, I just want a good cup of coffee. And it's like, okay. And then you talk to the women, and you're like, okay, you've been out in the field, you've been doing this, you've been doing that. Like, it's kind of like, where are you going to go? But instead, it's just like, what's the one thing you really miss? An overwhelming 97% of women in the military, I just want a hot bath. Like, literally, they just want a hot bath. Like, they want to soak, and they want to moisturize, and they just want to like release all of that. And it's just, to see the differentiation so starkly, and have it be confirmed. Like, I mean, honest to God, I got asked that question. They were like, hey, what's the first thing you're gonna do when you get back? And I'm like, I'm gonna shower, and then I'm gonna take a bath. Like, I'm gonna scrub my skin until like it's the fresh new baby skin that's 3 layers down. and then I'm gonna soak in a tub with like floating candles and like, I'm doing the whole 9 yards.
No, we call that's the Paris bubble bath.
Sure, yes, that's what that, like, yes,
absolutely. You got the candles going and the aromatherapy bath bomb.
Yep. And so my OIC, officer in charge, he thought it would be so funny. He, like, that's what he did. He went around. He was like, hey, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And he got to we had a formation. So we had to like form up, and we're like, oh my God, what are we doing? And he goes, an overwhelming majority of the men just want coffee. He's like, there's coffee in the MREs. He's like, don't worry, I know it's tar, but it's there. And he goes, now for the ladies, you don't want coffee. He's like, well, maybe you do, but not this coffee. You definitely want your frou-frou Starbucks. it was like a unicorn something at the time. I just remember him saying unicorn and me
Oh, that unicorn frappuccino.
Yes, that. And like the fact that this like 6'5", 245-pound man was talking about a Starbucks unicorn frappuccino made me snicker. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. And but he was like, he goes, there is no bath in your MRE. And I was like, what? He's like, every single one of you just wants to take a bath. He goes, now, I don't recommend you get in the water that's out here. He's like, but it is there. He goes, he cracks a joke about aromatherapy. He's like, you can smell oil on it.
Oh, God.
Come out smelling like a diesel engine.
Oh, my
I was like, nah.
And now. But that whole thing just reminds me of G.I. Jane, which is why that whole thing with Will Smith was so ridiculous, and how how she was so disrespected, being referred to as G.I. Jane. I'm all, did you not watch the same movie that I did? Like, I remember how hard Viggo Mortensen's character was trying to get her to wash out because he just couldn't watch. Yeah. He just couldn't watch the torture and how bad it was. And because he just knew how huge of a distraction that would be for him personally. He didn't want it. But I mean, it wasn't, okay for him to make that choice. It was actually a lot more complex than people give it credit for, because, they're very distracted by Demi's bus line. So they're not really paying attention to
and women.
So they're not really paying attention to that whole Wild Things storyline,
Yeah, it's I remember asking my mom, I was like, why did he smile at her like that? Like when it was all said and done, like when she yelled at him to, like, suck my bloop. I was like, she doesn't have one. Like, why did he laugh? Why is he smiling? And my mom goes, well, he didn't break her. Mm-mm. And so she earned his respect because he thought that she would break, like be one of the first ones to break. And I always thought that was pretty cool. But knowing what I know now, having been through stuff like that, I am well aware of the devastation that mixed units and like in combat zones or like women on the front lines.
Yep.
It does something to men. Like,
yep.
It doesn't make them better. They literally, their attention is split because they're so concerned about like the female safety. It's bad. It's very, very bad. So like I get it. I get women. Like, I'm not saying that women can't actually do it. I'm saying that there is like a biological trigger in men that make it dangerous for both. Just from experience. But I mean, we can just throw that out the window because feminism, I don't know.
It's a distraction. And so they're not really focusing because they do have like an innate sort of like protection mode that's going to go to that person next to them. And when it's brothers in arms, and I mean, I wasn't in the military, you were, so I'm just going to be like, speaking from just like the stories and stuff my dad has told me, like when you're brothers in arms, like you're there, you definitely have each other's backs.
Yeah.
But it's different. That's a different relationship. I think that, like you said, there's like that sort of blossoming that sort of happens. Like I think it's just pheromones in the air. Like it can't be helped.
You cannot hide the fact. Like, it doesn't matter if you cut your hair as short as the regulations allow, and if you strap your boobs down and you wear like, like you just wear the frumpiest clothes, like you absolutely cannot hide the fact that you are a woman. It's just impossible. And and then it starts to kind of come out because like
for us anyway, it seems to be kind of impossible. But I think that's, maybe part of our tomboy sort of like growing up. Like, what I mean? Like, yeah. It just we
I had a
achieved.
sergeant. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I had a sergeant who was like, as she was so butch. She was like, she walked up to me like on day 2. She was a corporal at the time. Day 2, and she was like, "Listen, don't ask, don't tell. That should tell you everything you need to know." And I just looked at her, and I was like, "Okay." She goes, "Clearly, I don't need to ask or tell you because you just told me without saying anything." Like she like knew, and she was like, "Don't worry about me." And oh man, she was just. But even she could not hide the fact that she was. I swear she must have had like an actual, like, she had to have testicles. She was insane. She was crazy. She was so buff. And like even when
She's
she
probably
stood
just
next to
taking
the guys,
hormones. Yeah,
well,
she's probably just getting hormones.
probably, but she stood next to the guys and you could 1000% tell she was not a dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's just,
You're still not a dude, no matter
yeah.
no matter how hard you try.
And it's
So
just, I think it's that thing, like, honest to God, because the men in the military, and yeah, you've got your fat bodies. Like, there's the military doesn't, like, we've got our bottom 10% too, but like the for the vast majority of it, you just look at these men and they're like muscled and short hair and just no off switch, and they go and they click, and I swear to God they can read each other's minds. And it's really rude because like they'll
rude,
all be in
like
sync, and I'm like,
vampires.
yes, and I'm like, what are we doing right now? Like, I don't understand. There's just like, come on, and I'm like, you didn't say anything. Like, what are we doing? And they're like, let's go, and I'm like, son of a,
Where are we going?
What are we doing? And they're like, no, that goes there, and I'm like, when did you guys have this conversation? And they were like,
he missed that.
yeah, they were like, you just need to learn to listen. And I'm like, I was listening, and
Yeah.
no words were exchanged, but they sync, and it's so impressive to watch these men just work, like, to just, they get in a groove.
And that's the thing, is like we sync too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's very few of us in the Marine Corps, so like,
yeah. So imagine working in a hair salon. And it was funny because every time somebody new would start at the salon, we'd all sort of like, almost all of us would restart.
Oh,
because it was like this like sort of thing. So, but basically when you're in a salon and working side by side, like at one time I was in a hair salon and 3 of us were pregnant all at the same time.
oh my.
Yeah. And
Something.
we were all like, yeah. So basically all your periods will sync up if you work together long enough and harmonious enough. Mm-hmm. And I can remember when one of my guys came in one time and like we hadn't even said anything. He walked in and he walked back out and he came back and he put chocolate down on the front desk and then he left.
And then he left.
And then he left for a while. He's like, I'm going to lunch. I'm like, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. He's like, I'll be back later. But yeah, he was like, he goes, I've had a lot of, and he was somebody who grew up with a bunch of sisters. So he was just like, he was very comfortable working around like a lot of women all day long.
He was like, oh, I see how
it is. Okay, so going on to this next part, it's hard to say when exactly this trend exploded. Has it exploded?
No, like literally until you sent me this article a day and a half ago, I had no idea that this was even like a thing on like TikTok or
okay, Instagram. Right? And we're on social media a lot. So though it's safe to say that the rise of social media has allowed it to grow exponentially. Before Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube were available at your fingertips 24 hours a day, it took more time for political or cultural movements to spread. Now a teenage girl in Ohio can stumble upon a photo carousel offering a series of housekeeping tips from a trad wife in the UK, and all of a sudden, it's a future she envisions for herself. Are we supposed to be scared of her having cleaning tips or like how to make bread? Like, what are the dangerous things that she's learning here?
Get off. Right? Instead of Hotel California, it's photo carousel.
It is hard to get off. Is that
so
it? Like it's a time
hard.
suck? You're gonna like fall down the show hole of cleaning hacks on TikTok?
Yes.
It's happened
Oh
to the
god,
best of us.
the organization ones. Oh,
The
I love them.
Japanese organization ones are pretty
Yes. Oh,
cute.
their gadgets are insane. Like I love
Insane.
Japan.
I love
Oh,
Japan.
but it's just yeah, you're just like you just get lost in it for hours, and then you're like, I could totally do this if I had like an extra $2 million and all the time in the world.
I wouldn't have any money for anything to organize.
I know, like
we just
I
have like
went
a lot of really pretty empty bins that match.
right. Like I told my husband, I was like, we can either have the organizational systems or we can have the stuff that's supposed to go in them, but not both.
It's like having the empty Gucci wallet.
Oh, yep,
Because you spent all your money on the wallet. So there's no money in the wallet. Okay. To Joe Piazza, author and host of a podcast about influencer moms called Under the Influence, the timing makes sense. The world is a disaster right now in every way possible. Like, okay.
These people really
And there
live.
has been a real trend toward nostalgia. Oh, this is my favorite paragraph because,
Yes.
Gary and I are such nostalgia junkies. There has been a real trend towards nostalgia because people often find it comforting, she tells KCM. The thing is, nostalgia for a better time is obscenely misplaced.
I don't think so. I don't think it's obscenely misplaced in this case. I mean, I'm pretty sure we didn't have like you could go to the beach without worrying about stepping on needles or a homeless person or
Yeah,
that
that's
homeless
so
person's
misplaced.
poop.
That's so
Like,
misplaced.
right? Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I'm not saying that it didn't have its problems, but
Absolutely.
like when the mob does a better job of running Chicago than Democrats, we have a problem.
Well,
We
they
have
are more organized and they have strong leadership.
Yes, they do. And and they actually like that's the other thing that just it blows my mind that they're not doing like the Chicago specifically is doing absolutely nothing about this overrun of just lawlessness until it like a foot crosses the threshold in one of the last few neighborhoods that needs to be like protected or whatever. Like an upper class neighborhood, excuse me. And it's I just don't get it. Like it's like, oh, okay, so they're gonna try and push into your territory, and that's when you're gonna try and push back, but you're not gonna try and, branch your territory out. Like, this is the weirdest gang war I've ever seen. It's just it's so bizarre and it's unnatural, and I don't like it at all, especially when people are like, hey, visit Chicago, but avoid these areas. Here's a route to follow. They realize that anybody can look up that route, right? And now suddenly route
it's like
is
a
no
safe
longer
zone.
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have all the tourists with their camera equipment and their, cash in their wallet and going around. It's the same thing where it's like, even just coming from California, when I went back recently, one of the husbands was like, come on now. Like, I'm sure you missed something. Like, what is it that you miss about San Francisco? And I was like, I really miss having my car broken into on a regular basis. Nothing gets your heart started in the morning, like, coming out to a broken window that you have to figure out like how you're going to pay for and when you're going to find the time to get it fixed because you're working 24 hours a day just to live here. And I said, and I feel like I can't send my adult child to the Walgreens or the corner market. Like literally my 6'4" child was not allowed to go to our corner market after dark.
Yeah. No,
and he's an adult. And I was like, he goes, Mom, I'm an adult. You can't tell me not to go. And I said, you're right. I can't, but just know every minute you're gone, I will be worried. Like every single minute, yes. That it'll be so distracting for me because I said, it's not you. It's not that I don't think you can't take care of yourself. It's just that, it's just crazy down there right now.
It's everybody else that you can't control and that you don't trust.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's the thing that blew. So I had an old buddy who has been just like he's lived in cities his whole life, and even when he joined the Marine Corps, like Charleston was the smallest town he'd ever been to. And then I had another buddy who was from Minnesota, and the to listen to the two of them talk is just insane. And the one buddy went to go visit the other buddy up in Minnesota and was like floored that my Minnesota buddy could leave his car unlocked with his
I
keys
do that
in the
all the time
ignition.
here. Yeah, I do
Yeah,
that all
like
the time here. And I'm
cars
in and I'm
unlocked.
still in a city and I can do it all the time.
Mm-hmm. It
Yeah.
is
So going
insane.
back to but touching back on the nostalgia thing, and we're big collectors of like old things, just like,
Yeah.
yes, from a simpler time. And somebody said something really good. It's like people, who is it? Mike likes tacos. People seem to go back to things that work, and this trend
Yes.
is alarming and potentially racist, anti-Semitic, anti-science, anti-woman, anti-science woman, anti-science woman of color, and anti-climate. I'm all, yeah, okay. I'm not seeing like making bread or even like being a prepper or like any of those things is like, that's not the comfort of nostalgia. I'm just not making the connection there. But when we want to have things, it's like how Gary talks about escapism all the time. Like he likes
Yes.
those old sort of hero stories and good versus evil, and
Everybody does.
and now it's, the new generation just thinks that they sort of have invented everything. Like they've invented, the diversity for one. It's like,
my God,
okay,
yes.
you know what? When Star Trek, like the original Star Trek, it's like diversity was hard to achieve back then.
Yes.
Like when Star Trek, like not like now. Now it's like a fucking walk in the park. I'm sorry, but it is. They're not fighting anything, and they're not, these big movers and shakers that they think they are. Like I have a coloring book from when Star Trek first came out, and Uhura is not black in this coloring book.
Huh.
Like somebody changed it. Somebody said this comic book's not going to sell. Somebody's, or maybe she hadn't been cast as a black woman yet. Like I wish I could go back and find out what it was, but basically it's a coloring book full of white characters, but it is Star Trek from when it very first came out.
Huh.
And so it's like, I think that people just don't understand the advancement and the progress that we've made for what it is and how fast that it's actually come. Did you ever watch Walk the Line?
Yes.
Okay. So Walk the Line, I think the most poignant thing about that is when you go to the very beginning of the movie and they're in a shack with a light bulb.
Yes.
And then they have a radio.
Yep.
And by the time Johnny Cash passes away, you can get high def Blu-rays of re-engineered of like shows and music and stuff. Like just that technological advancement spanned in that one single lifetime.
Yep.
People just don't have an appreciation for how fast things are actually moving.
No, none at all. Because the thing is, like, that's a disconnect. Like my grandpa went super similar situation. My grandpa saw the very first like home. He was an adult when he got a refrigerator. Like he was an adult. He was an adult. He was 19 when his family first got a refrigerator. Mm-hmm. He was in his 20s when they first because it used to be the TV stores. The reason the TV screens were pointed to the outside was so you could stand outside and watch
them, right? Because they weren't common.
No,
they weren't common.
And it went from home radio to home television to now you have a freaking smart. You've got a literal high processing computer that can fit in your pocket and do whatever you want it to do. And like I was trying to tell somebody one time, I was like, look, I remember when computer labs in schools were a big deal. Like, it's a computer. They're like, what do you mean computer lab? And I'm like, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a room full of computers, and it's designated as a computer lab. You have to check in, you have to check out. You're only allowed to you're only allowed to do so many things
Because
on
we
there.
didn't have computers at home.
No. And
Yeah.
so it was a room, and we went from those huge, you remember they're huge computers, and you had like the tiny little screen, but they were considered like the first residential sized computer, and it was the Macintoshes with the rainbow colored apple. Do you remember those?
I had the lap. I had that when it came out.
Lucky.
I got my work to help me get one of, like, when they had the candy colored laptop that came out.
Yes.
Yeah, I had that. I probably still have it in a box somewhere because it was just because it was so bloody cute,
right?
and like the color of a Jolly Roger.
Jolly Roger. Well, it went from those really like the cream wall colored brown computers.
Putty.
Yeah, the putty. And then it
Putty.
went to, all of a sudden, the Apple desktops now came in color, and you could get like the turquoise, the maroon, the orange, the green, and
Purple.
the purple. And those were like the 5 colors, and it was such a big deal, and they were so cool. But like, I learned how to type on a typewriter.
Me too. You're not as old as I am, though.
No, I'm not, but I grew up in a poor public school. So yes, typewriters it was, because they were around. Those were more available. Those were more readily available. And granted, it was only for 1 year, because then we got the computer lab. But like, literally, it was my first exposure to like a keyboard was a typewriter. And
well, I was thrift shopping one time with my oldest, and he must have been like 7 or something, and he saw an electric typewriter and was like, saw the keyboard and was like, it has a keyboard, but it's not a computer. Like, Mom, what is that? And this other lady shopping looked at me like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, I know. I'm like, Penny, I said, that's a typewriter. Like, we used to put the paper in, and then you have the ink. And I showed him like how the keys would pound, and he was just like, oh my God, that's ridiculous.
Oh, talk about like,
out of the mouths of babes.
We've got mechanical. We literally have mechanical keyboards for computers to mimic the sound of typewriters. Like, it's a thing. Because you can feel it better. You can hear it. It like travels through your body. It's awesome. Really quick. Hi, Macany Jaws. It's a cute little puppy with the hearts for $2. Thank you so much. But yeah, it's like the idea that, you know, this stuff has just, that life has only just started now, and we didn't make these advancements in a super short amount of time, and cultural shifts didn't happen in a super short amount of time. I mean, when you think about it, like, if you look at the existence of the planet, human history is barely a blip on it.
Oh yeah.
And then you look at, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and actually, this is, you know, up until fairly recently, and probably still, like, this is also one of the more peaceful times. Like, the planet's actually become more peaceful. Like, it used to be like constant turmoils and invasions and fighting over the like
borders were never set.
Yeah.
Maps had to be redrawn,
and they move all the time. Yeah.
Yes. Like, it's crazy. And then you think about like in it's only been in the past, guys, I need you to think about this. It's only been in the past like 70 or 80 years. So one human lifetime, the span of one human life, it's only been about 70 or 80 years that it has been expected for the general populace to be able to read, to be able to write. That used to be like, that used to be a huge class thing. You were able to
just to be able to read. Absolutely.
Yeah, just to be able to read meant you were extremely privileged. Like, to be able to write your own name, Like most people, when they signed contracts, it would be like a scribble or it would be like an X. Like it wouldn't even
Like
be legible.
initially, yeah, they initialed it.
Yeah, they
So
had
yeah,
no idea.
going back to like one of those sort of military stories, I can remember my dad telling me, and he was in Vietnam. I can remember my dad telling me that at that time, you know, he was born in 48, so he wasn't that much older than me. That when he joined the military, he goes, "Oh my God, Melissa, you wouldn't believe it. There was guys there that, you know, didn't know how to lace their boots because they ain't never had shoes."
Yep.
You know, because they came from the Appalachians, or they came from like one of those border towns down by Texas. And it's like, you know, that was like the kind of thing where it's like joining the military was such a step up for them. And
Yes.
I can remember being at the, like, signing one of my kids up for school, and I had to go down to like the main building in the city. And there was a man there that was waiting to be helped. He basically needed a translator because he was trying to sign his grandson up for school and he could not read the paperwork. And it wasn't because he was foreign.
Nope. And it wasn't because he was stupid either. Like that's the other misconception. They're like, "Oh, you can't read, you must be stupid." No, you simply can't do something you were never taught. Like it's so incredible to me. But like literally, it's only been the past like 70 years that the majority of the population has been expected to be able to read and write. And like that story about your like your dad, that's just crazy because I like now to get into the military, you have to take an ASVAB, which means you have to be able to read.
Yeah.
Like
I remember my older son has done that.
Yeah.
He's done that testing to get in like a couple different times because he went in and he had to have a medical rehab. So he was going to go back in, and he took a second test to get back in. And when he told me that he joined the military, I laughed. Oh my, no, I laughed my ass off because here is my child that I moved to San Francisco so that I could live in a really diverse, really international, super metropolitan city. And he was raised in this liberal bubble. And he joined the military. So I just kept having all these little flashes of Private Benjamin go through my head. And I just was like, picture him going like, I think this march would be a lot more comfortable in my Jordans, yo. I'm just saying. Like, I was like, oh my God, there's the movie we need to remake right there. Like, instead of like that waspy New Yorker, like, Goldie Hawn character, we need like the kid and I told them, I said, babe, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing because I've raised you in a city that and going to public school, and everything's just been so liberal and so diverse. And so I said, you've never dealt with like real racism. I said, and you've certainly never had to experience misogynism. And I said, you are about to get a healthy dose of both of those things, just being thrown in with like, and I told him the story about my dad saying he's been thrown in with like hillbillies that haven't had shoes and haven't this, and it's like, and it's not, their fault they haven't had shoes. It's like just such a like poor thing. Like what you said, like being able to read is privileged. Like they see that as like a privileged thing, where it's like, a good majority of us just see that as like a basic skill. That's not that important. So, and when he came back from, getting he basically fell and had a couple injuries and stuff he had to rehab from. So when he came back, I was like, so did you make any friends? And he went, no. He goes, there was one guy I liked, but it was like, yeah, most of them, like, I'm sure that once he started hearing them talk and what they had, you know what I mean? Like what they had to say, like I just can't picture him like really tolerating a lot of that stuff. Like, cause he's just he's not a shit talker. He's just,
they make you one.
He's more cerebral than that. He's just more cerebral. Like his conversation levels are just different.
Yeah. No, that's where the dark humor comes in, and everybody at some point or another, some are just better at it or like are wittier about it. So when they do it, it's more of like a so like your big one, your Nerdrotic the Tall would have his hits would have been not high in quantity, but they would have been humdingers. They would have been on point with the quality. Because
Right.
you're not, because well, like he never does the shit talking, he never does this, he never says this, and they are always the ones that
Oh my
have
God,
just
he's the
the
worst.
like
He is
the
the
most
worst.
devastating ones in the wings ready to go. And like it'll just like he'll just like walk by the door and he'll like throw it into the shop and then he'll just keep walking and then you're just like sitting there like trying to recover from what just happened and you go, oh my God, like we got to stop underestimating him. That I knew a few of those guys too.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
honest to God, it didn't racist jokes are told in the military ad nauseum, but nobody cares because it's towards everybody. Like everybody's making the jokes. And you know that you would literally die for the guy next to you and that he would die for you. So like you're like, racism is not really a big deal. Like when you go
Hello?
a fighting
Sorry.
hole as I think your dad calls it or whatever, like you're just like, man, racism is stupid. It's so stupid. Like it's such a waste. Like there's no point in it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just stupid. Because it doesn't even make any sense. Like someone's just a bit more tanner than you. In some cases, someone's a lot tanner than you are.
Well,
But, I mean,
one of my favorite things to sort of say is like, if you're a music lover, you can't be racist.
no.
Like if you love rock and roll, like you need to get really real about that. Like because all of that we think of as sort of our classic American rock and roll scene, yeah, it's you're not what it's not what you think it is if you really break that down.
Isn't what it
But
seems. Man,
it
I
is
love
not.
jazz.
It is not what it seems.
I love jazz and I love blues. Like it's so something about those two genres. They don't get enough love for one, but two, they're just incredible. And you have to be incredibly talented to pull that off. But like this nostalgia thing where like you're right, where it's like obscenely misplaced and it's like, no, dude, like we happen to know that there was a time. It's called like I am of the opinion that mankind peaked in the 1990s. Like microwave
Oh
pizza,
God, I don't know about that.
microwave pizza and denim everything. Humanity peaked. But like nobody cared. Like like we had gotten over so much strife and so much grief and like the Berlin Wall had finally come down in the 89. Like all of this historical stuff had happened.
I'm gonna agree with you in the way that like the music and stuff that we had. I mean, like think about some of the crossovers that we've had.
Right?
Yeah, like I remember like a lot of my assistants going like, I don't understand how like you can like the Beastie Boys so much. And I was like, whoa. Okay, first of all, let me just say like this is groundbreaking and super like important in a music movement when you have Jewish guys rocking and rolling and rapping. Like it's like, and and it's kind of respected by so many people. I said it was kind of, like Run DMC and Aerosmith doing their crossovers. Like we had so much cohesiveness through music. And I have to say, I've been really disappointed because I thought that our 2 years of lockdowns would really lead to like a lot of creative music coming out, and it's not.
No.
I thought we were going to really see like some Dada, some surrealism, some music, like something. And it's like, we've gotten a few things, but not the progress that I thought we would see there.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like, like with the lockdowns, people had the chance to really, I mean, you could have, it's 2 years of like, even if you weren't fully locked down, you were probably like semi locked down, maybe
We
working
certainly weren't. Yeah, we
remotely.
weren't going to
Yeah.
summer camp. We weren't,
Right? Like
collaborating like we used to. There wasn't the
no.
concerts and stuff. Like everybody just had the perfect excuse to stay home and fucking write stuff. And we're
Write
so
stuff,
easily connected, like
find new, like, yeah.
remotely.
Like get and or like really dive into like, you know, the people laugh at this, but like the didgeridoo, like you could have delved
Hmm.
into like that history and its music and what it means, and you could have really like pulled inspiration from something like that and really run with it, or like the bugle or the horn or the bag, like if you want to just think of like the most obscure thing possible, because usually the way that the most
Like
creative
I'm gonna
stuff,
learn how to play the harp for the next
right,
6 months. Like something just crazy.
because like usually the most creative stuff comes out of like, oh man, it'd be funny. Like, let's just go look up how to play the bagpipes. And then you're like, okay, so you have to force air into the bag first. And so the notes you're hearing are actually like, you don't blow into the bagpipe at the same time that the sound comes out. There's like a delay, and because it has to do with like squeezing the bag. And you're like, no, because it's a woodwind. And like, so you start, diving deeper, and you start looking more, and then you order a bagpipe, and then you learn how to play the bagpipe. And
Because
then
you
it
can just
just sort
order
of,
it on Amazon now.
yeah, you can. So like you just sort of devolve into this, like you go down this rabbit hole, and suddenly you have this new passion. And there should be so much more of that peeking through, but it's just not there. And there's no optimism. Like I'm utterly ashamed of the level of nihilism that exists in my generation specifically.
Uh-huh.
Like, but there's the 90s were so, the 80s were so optimistic, the 90s were so optimistic. I'd say like early 2000s, with the exception of 9/11, like that thing, um
Yeah.
was optimistic, and like, and that thing happened, and it's like it brought America together, and that was unity, and that was like, even out of that super dark situation, like light came through, and it was people's hearts, and you were just, it's literally the story that people love to hear, like out of tragedy, these amazing things rise, these amazing people and these amazing things rise from the ashes. And now here we are 21 years later, and you're kind of looking around going, what the fuck?
What happened to
Like,
that?
where did it go? It's
Yeah.
just gone.
Yeah.
And
So that progress actually really stalled out. And CT 2005 put in here, didn't Tupac collab with Elton John at one point? And I'm gonna say,
yes,
yeah,
they did.
there was so much of that. Think of like Madonna's Sex Book with Big Daddy Kane. Think of like you had the most prominent people in entertainment. They were already doing all of that, and it was actually entertaining, and it was
Yes.
actually shocking, and it was actually captured in a really amazing and beautiful way. Like they weren't just putting out something schlocky and going,
Yeah.
"Look at us, we're diverse."
We
Like
weren't
that.
we weren't
That wasn't
CGIing.
what they were doing. What
Yeah.
I saw in the theater recently, my girlfriend who sent me this article, we went together to go see the George Michael. You remember George Michael of Wham? We went to go see
Yes.
that thing that they did on him, that documentary, and it talked about like how I forgot what year it was, but they basically like gave him like a soul music kind of an award that only ever went to Black people. And Stevie Wonder was like, hold it, George Michael's white? Like
George Michael's white?
Yeah, George Michael's white? Like that's a white boy singing that? And it's like, so not only you have this white guy, but this like very, gay man, like coming out, but he was so incredibly talented. He wasn't out there because he was gay. He was, and it's like, and he got all of this like blowback that was really like so hard on him mentally. And this is the thing, it's like, it's a lot like when Chappelle talks about sticks and stones. So he was given this, so he was given this award from, basically the Black community, and then sort of skewered over it at the same time.
Yep.
and how
It's a
difficult that
double-edged
was for
sword.
him mentally. It was a double-edged sword. And I just go, it's not like he asked for the award. It's not like he
No.
even expected it. It's like, for that, I mean, I would just think that, and I think that that's the kind of thing. It's like we see it as a really big honor, and then you have all these people going like, that shouldn't go to him. And I'm like, but somebody thought it should go to him.
Yeah.
Have that conversation with that person.
Right?
Why would it be his fault?
Well, I remember Rolling. Do you remember Rolling in the Deep
Yeah.
with Adele? Right?
Yeah.
Same situation for me. I first heard that song on the radio. And it I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." Like, cuz when did that come out? 10 years ago, 11 years, 2010? So like the smartphone is still relatively new. YouTube is kind of just now becoming more than just cat videos. Like it's not what it like that's the other thing too that these people don't understand. What the smartphone has accomplished in 15 years
Mm-hmm.
is insane. What
Mm-hmm.
YouTube has become in a decade is insane. Like it is an explosion that I don't like the measurement must just be way outside the bell curve. Like it's just got to be insane. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing "Rolling in the Deep" on the radio, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is amazing!" And I think it wasn't until like a year later that I actually got on YouTube, and I was like, "I really want to listen to that song." Like I really want to listen to "Rolling in the Deep." I want to see what the music video is because MTV had not been MTV for a long time at that point, and so when it
Yeah.
came on, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. Adele being a white woman was not something I expected, let alone a ginger.
Wow. Wow. What is
Holy
that?
crap. I went, "What?" Like, literally, the words that came out of my mouth, my best friend was sitting right next to me, and I was like, "Adele's white?" And my best friend's like, "Apparently." Like,
Dude, like where have you been? Yeah. But as somebody who grew up like being a big fan of like, Alison Moyet and stuff, like that
ah,
soulful sort of voice is not,
yes.
assigned to any one race. So
This is
um
true.
just
It was still a
it's
shock.
not. I love that we went off on a music tangent, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
go back. Let's get back to the article
Okay. Go
because I
back.
feel like we have at least a few more paragraphs left because
Yes, because the
they
best
they
best
haven't they
one.
haven't gotten done. They haven't gotten to the part where they're disparaging to everybody else, right? So
Yes.
Piazza
Yes.
compares it to other sweeping trends in media. We see women who leave big city jobs to work on farms, but completely leave out the bone and soul crushing realities of working as a farmer to make a true living wage. Similarly, we see nostalgia for the 1950s housewife a la Betty Draper that ignores the stifling limitations put on women in the 50s, like not being able to get a credit card or having to submit to their husbands without question, Piazza points out. Like, I don't think anybody's nostalgic for not being able to get their own credit card, or is that just me?
Well, no, but what I did find interesting, it's so funny that this is in here. I had to take I had to take several finance classes in high school, but in one of those finance classes, the uh, uh in 19 oh gosh, I'm gonna get this wrong, and it was a test. It was a question on the final. 1977, I think, is when the law was like signed, or like women were allowed to get their own credit cards without without a husband or a father or a brother or some kind of male relative co-signing with them, and the amount of credit card debt tripled in 5 years in America. And I was like, "Oh, maybe there was a reason for that." I don't
Well,
know.
the credit cards, but credit cards are debt. So all of
Yeah.
that did was show that their increase in customers. That doesn't mean it's bad debt because
Oh,
credit is debt.
it's only bad debt if you can't pay it. That's when
Right.
it
So it's
becomes
not
bad.
like so I'm failing to see that if that was actually bad debt or if it was just like that
I
big of an increase in their customer base.
Well, the reason that it was tended to be bad is because women still, like, even in the 70s, even though women were working, when they got pregnant, most of them would a lot of women would choose to stay home, and so they'd be one income households. And so credit card debt went up, but income remained like if you look at the lines, the income
Mhm.
did not track with the credit card debt, and that's when it
Mhm.
became a problem. But again, that's just that isn't even that's nobody's fault. Anybody can make that mistake with a credit card, because if nobody teaches you, again, it's the same thing as learning to read. If no one teaches you that credit card
Yes,
debt,
yeah.
if no one teaches you that credit cards, like credit is debt and this is what it's for and this is how you build it and this is how you make it positive, and if you don't do these things, it becomes a negative, then of course you're going to be irresponsible with it because you don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah, because you had finance classes. I
Yeah.
did not have finance classes in school. Because when I was allowed to, like when we were allowed to have credit cards, I was already 7 years old. So they were just kind of figuring that all out. So by the time
Yeah.
you got to school, what did I have? I had home ec. I had biology, like all the regular classes, but it's like,
Yeah.
I didn't have, I had typing, like keyboarding.
Nice.
And then I did have in junior high was when I first saw the first computer lab, and we had computers and computer class. And I have to say, like, I didn't really do the computer class.
Yeah,
because
a lot of people
they,
did.
well, they had these couple of guys that were like the TAs for the computer class, and I just got those nerdy boys to sign my projects off. Like, you didn't have to really do them. I'm like, you're gonna sign this off for me, right? And they're like, yes.
Fast forward a few decades, and now you're running like multiple social media accounts and
Oh
trying to
and I'm actually, for a hairdresser of my age, like not like I'm getting better with computers. Like I'm still sort of using it, and I can do a lot more with my phone than a lot of the women my age. That's for sure. But when we talk about like when we see women leave big city jobs to work on farms and completely leave out but I'm like, Kat Von D bailed LA.
Yeah.
And bought some historical home in Illinois.
Yep.
I don't think she's plowing any fields, you guys. But she definitely like got the F out of there. And this is somebody who's like, iconic and gothic and multi-talented, and she definitely moved to a small town. It's because you know what, she had a baby. It's just like you look around and it's like, who wants to raise a kid in that kind of cesspool if you don't have to do that, and you can go someplace where it's like you're not as affected and you're not in the spotlight and you're not in this, and it's like, so yeah, and the farming thing and a true living wage, it's like, I think that line there is pretty, as somebody who's from Wisconsin and familiar with people who like work on dairy farms and the farms and stuff that feed you.
Yep.
Like, so you just know that they're struggling for that, and how bad like COVID was for a lot of those sort of businesses, especially the dairy business, right?
Well, and this right here, the way that they phrase this, to make a true living wage, like it's like these people are trying to terrify you out of being a homemaker by being like, if you try and
you're gonna be broke and racist.
Yes, you're gonna be poor, and poor people are oppressed, and you're not gonna be able to get your triple mocha double shot frap oat milk. I don't even know if that's a thing. Coffee, 5 days a week or whatever it is, and like,
and
you really try and focus on the like materialism that you're gonna miss out on, but most of these women, the trade-off is more than worth it because they're fulfilled, they're happy, they have meaning in their life. Excuse me. That isn't beholden to a board of trustees. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like it seems to just really, like, I don't know if Katie Couric could even imagine something like that because she's been in the biz for so long. But like when you look at it, like there's nothing wrong with being a career woman if that's really what you want to do. And, you know, like, props to you. You should be able to do that. But if you want to be a home, like a homemaker, a housewife, a stay-at-home mom, you should be able to do that too without getting shamed and told, like, because the crazy part about this is when they say make a true living wage, because now it's not just, now we're not pushing for a minimum wage, we're pushing for a living wage, like, and everybody should make enough that they have, you know, the basic necessities. But then when you ask these people what the basic necessities are, it's like, well, they should be able to, like, you know, they should be able to afford food. Okay, well, what do you mean by that? They should be able to go out and eat. So it's like, you, what you want is to be paid for the lifestyle that you want, not that you've earned, but that you want, and at the expense of somebody else. You just don't want to put in the effort to earn. I mean, you must have 33 years as a hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your knees, your joints must be shot. Like,
Oh,
I mean that in the nicest way possible.
No. I've definitely got a few repetitive disorders for sure. Like
Yeah, like,
I've got a few things. But you know, I just try and work around them, and I've done stuff to sort of like, and I also really focused on working in the most ergonomic manner that I could sort of muster.
yeah.
But it's funny because I used to say like, well, I don't want to be behind the chair full time, you know, when I'm 50 years old.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, be careful what you wish for, because you might not be behind the chair at all. Right.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you're not essential. And I'm just going to send you home. And I'm like, okay,
God.
that wasn't quite the segue I was looking for. But yeah,
Talk about,
it's really unfortunate.
I mean, just, yeah, like, I cannot believe that people are forgetting, like, hairdressers, uh you know, short order cooks at sit-in restaurants, bank tellers, you know, majority of them, or just like people who owned hobby shops, like, like, or clothes, like small boutiques, like
Yeah.
the big chain company had to stay open, but like mom and
Weird.
pop
And
shops,
Hollywood
like,
and
yeah,
Hollywood.
Hollywood got to stay open. All, like,
Hollywood makeup artists and hairdressers were working.
yep, but no, you tiny mom and pop shop that's been open for 65 years with the blood, sweat, tears, and determination of your family, you're
Yeah. So don't
non-essential.
write it. Yeah. Don't write an article acting like you care about my bone crushing, you know, my bone and soul
So,
crushing
yeah.
realities. Let's
Yeah,
not pretend that.
like, first of
So
all, and the crazy part about this too, um
you blipped out. Where'd you go?
farm and ranch, like, we're trying to save up to buy land, just keeps getting more expensive. It's a problem. Freaking inflation. But
You gotta
um
wait till next, just gotta wait till next year.
yeah, just gotta wait. Just gotta wait.
It's gonna
Um
dip. We know
I
it's coming.
know, we do. God, it's gonna, when that bubble bursts, there's gonna be a lot of people that lose a lot of money. But that will be a different stream. But the crazy part about this is where it says that bone and soul crushing realities, there are, like, you know, like, if you become a farmer, a rancher, a hand, you know, something that's laborious, like physically demanding, you already know what's coming. You are choosing that and you find joy in that work. Like, that's something else that these people don't understand. I'll bet you that, I'm sure you went to work some days but you didn't feel like going, like, you're just like, oh, I just want to stay in bed, or like, you know, do I have to go in today? But then you would get there and it would be like, oh, it's totally worth it. Like,
Hmm.
this is really what I do love doing.
No, I
It's,
have to say I 100% loved my job.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I had no trouble. I looked forward to going and doing my job every day. I may not have loved every single person that I
yeah,
worked on, but for the most part, like I had an amazing clientele of like, you know, amazing women. And at the end, when I had my own salon, I was surrounded by people that I wanted to be around and they wanted to be around me. And it was just, I mean, we still get together like when when we're all in
yeah,
town and stuff, because we want to see each other and catch up. And it was just like it was probably as close to perfect as possible. So when people have been like, hey, are you going to open a salon in Texas, I'm like, you know what, I just don't think that I could ever come close to achieving that, because it was just as close to perfect as you could get.
Yeah.
And I just don't see doing that again.
Yeah, because like once you taste it and you just
I'd always be
it's
comparing it.
yeah, it's lightning in a bottle, and we've seen it, like, especially look at freaking Hollywood right now. They keep trying to like manhandle lightning back into the bottle. Like, oh, it worked. Like, let's do it this way. Like, just shove the
We
light. Be like,
gotta
no, like,
push real hard.
yeah, and they just and then it burns them bad, and then they end up crapping out some ridiculous show or film,
Oh,
and you're like, man, it was like you're never gonna be able to recapture that. Like, remember the Princess Bride, they will never be able to remake it ever. Like,
mm,
you can't remake that movie. It's just not possible. And I maintain you can't remake the Neverending Story either. Just
yeah,
saying.
probably not. Yeah,
Like,
we love those too.
yeah, I mean, it's insane to think about, but like, like that's what I said. You went to work, and I'm sure not every day was a great day or a perfect day, but like at the end of the day, it was always like it's worth it. Like, this is mine. This is like I've done this with my hands. Like,
Oh
I've
yeah, created
changed
it from
lives. Yeah,
scratch.
like I created this. I made this. I did this with my hands. Like, there is a there is a type of uh, gratification, but like not like it's not instant gratification, but it is knowing that you are growing in your skill and
Hmm.
raising up in your knowledge and becoming more experienced, and you're starting to affect more lives and help more people and do all of these things. And are you going to cure cancer? Probably not, but you may make the
That did keep it in perspective for me. There was days where I had to go like, look, people, we're not saving any lives today. Like, as but it's like, it's one of the things about my job that was so amazing is just like seeing how much you help people,
Mhm.
like just with their confidence and their self-esteem. And I mean, you just make people feel good on that hour. Like, there's something so incredibly validating about that, and so incredibly rewarding. And with years of experience, because I did that for 30 years pretty much, it's like with the
Yeah.
years of experience, even when you had those blips and you had those problems and you
Mhm.
had the things that were going, like, you got better at handling them too. So it's like, yeah, you're going to have things that are huge setbacks. You're going to have small setbacks. You're going to have huge setbacks, but you get better at handling them and dealing with them. And that's why, when we had a big economic downturn and Gary had to, basically close the comic book store,
Yeah.
because it was just like it was dead in the water. A lot of his clientele was students. The students didn't have any disposable income.
Oh.
Everybody at my salon was just sitting around and watching me work all day. Like, I was the only one that was really busy. So I was like floating a lot of stuff on my own. And so when it was the other way around, 10 years later, when it was the other way around and I got shut down and he's the only one working and and kind of doing this thing, it's like, I'm like, we've kind of already been through this. We kind of had already been through something really similar, and knowing that, like, you know what, you're going to get through it. It's not a actual life and death situation. It's kind of like that this too shall pass kind of situation.
Mm.
And it gave us, and it's like, that's what I mean. It's like there's a grit and confidence there
Yep.
that is not soul crushing. So
No.
it's like, I'm not being treated for fucking depression. You know what
No.
I mean? It's
And like,
like, I
yeah,
don't need any medication to get out of bed in the morning. And
no.
I have a really, really healthy, I have a very healthy ego.
Hey, I know you do. Like, you're just one of the best people I know, period. And I'm so happy that I know you and that we're friends, because it means the world to me. Like, it really does. And like, just listening to what happened to you and like, it's bad enough that you guys you were forced to shut down. Like, that's the thing too. The way that people phrase those sentences, like, oh yeah, we had to close down. No. No, you were forced to
Mm-hmm.
close down. It's not like we had to close down because we ran out of money or because we made a mistake or because,
Right. It
we
was
like,
it was through no fault of my own.
yes,
And
like
yeah, it wasn't,
literally
and that's
forced.
what I and that was what I told Gary too when we had to let go of the comic book store. I had to be like, this is I said, look around you. There's businesses closing right and left. You're just one of them right now. I know and it sucks. And I'm sorry that doesn't make you feel any better, but that's the truth of the situation is like
Yeah.
there's a lot of like like all that kind of fun spending. And two, one of the other things is, and he doesn't talk about this very much that I've caught, is his market was flooded because everybody needed money.
Yeah.
Everybody was dumping their collections.
Yep.
So they weren't collecting, they were trying to offload all of that stuff. That's
Yep.
why he said, that's why I always say it's like, we collected it just for fun, but you have to think like there's like, it's like a 50-50 chance. It's like gambling. It's like, this could be worth like nothing someday because the market could get
Yeah.
flooded and there could be a bunch of them. So,
Yep. Well,
okay. Sorry, I was going to go.
No.
You want me to go to the next part?
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
going to put these next two are really short, so I'm just going to read them together.
yep.
The
They're
coverage,
doozies too, guys. They're doozies.
they're doozies. The coverage and criticism of trad wives has been slowly increasing since 2017, a timeline which perhaps not uncoincidentally seems to track with a number of concerning online trends, many of which are founded on conspiracy theories and alt-right ideologies. And all that seems like a pretty loose tie-in to me. It's easy to look at a photo and make your own conclusions about what it represents. But this phenomenon begs the question, what do trad wives think their movement is about? And why do they value these old-fashioned dynamics?
Oh my god. Like when I think I texted you when I got to this paragraph. I was like, what? I was like, since when are trad wife, like, when is a housewife an alt-right I can't even say the word. Alt-right
Since when is
ideology.
making bread a conspiracy theorist?
These women are not actually making it from scratch. Like,
Yeah,
she
and
did not.
this is so much harder to believe than these women aren't really women.
Oh my gosh. Like, look at how happy she looks though. God, she's pretty and he's adorable. But like, seriously, the when I got to this paragraph, I died. I was like, hold on. So you saw an increase of traditional values online because people were no longer scared. Like, here's the other thing too. Most centrists, and I think you could probably back me up on this one too, but most centrists and most center right people and like sane center left people, even though the left is like left them behind and they're basically centrist now too. But like, most people are working their butts off. Like, they the idea that these trends were somehow, because what, at least the way I'm drawing my own conclusion. I guess this is
Well,
a conspiracy
that's what you
theory.
get for thinking on your own and not just
Right?
believing the ridiculous
But like the way that
article.
this is right, the way this is worded, conspiracy theory, it makes it sound like this wasn't an organic trend or like an organic
Or just a
movement.
little bit of its own backlash.
Yeah.
When somebody starts going around like, what is a woman? Somebody going like, well, let me show you what I think it is. Like,
Exactly.
and let me show you where I am and where I can be really strong in this. There's a couple things that this, like looking at this picture and how good she looks, and like you were talking about earlier, like I know she set that hair, curled that hair, she put on that face while she was probably holding that baby on her hip. And she just put that dress on 5 seconds ago because nobody with a baby that age has stain-free outfit in their entire wardrobe if you've had any kids and stuff before. So it's just like, first of all, I feel like as a hairdresser content is so crazy saturated because we are very visual. So like one of the very first things to happen all over social media was people that do visual things like hair. So there was a ton of hairdressers on there, and I was like, well, I have a lot of tips and tricks, and one of my clients who is an amazing coach, and she helps people put together like online courses and stuff. She came over and we did a recording and we did a video, and it actually wasn't half bad. And I wasn't unhappy with how it looked and all of that. So like it was pretty good. And she came in like 6 weeks later to get her hair done, and she was like, so what did you do with the video? What did you think of that? And I just went, you know what? I am so glad that we took the time to make that one video, because now I have a much deeper understanding of what Gary does all day and how fucking time consuming that is. So to see her with a baby on her hip in this flawless outfit and this with a clean floor behind her, like, we know that just having like that picture is kind of like super, like there's an effort there.
Yeah,
and
like,
she
honest
is
to God, that is a
capturing
flex. Like, this is, but it's a very subtle flex, but it is there. Like, the fact that she does have the flowered wallpaper, the organized units, the clean floor, the little baby. Because not only is her outfit something she put on 5 seconds ago, the outfit on him she probably put on 3 seconds ago. There ain't no way that baby has been
she had it all laid out, and she's like, okay, right before we walk out the door, we're gonna put this on.
Exactly.
Like, you know that is like some
100%.
crazy timing. So I'm like really missing the conspiracy theory part here.
I'm telling you, it's because they think that this is inorganic. Like, they can't in their minds fathom that this happened at like like it can't, like, to them this sprung out of nowhere. But in reality, like you said, it's a bit of a backlash to
okay, yeah, how can it be nostalgic and out of nowhere at the same time?
Exactly. Like, you
That's
can't
such
have
a
it both ways.
contradiction. Yeah, no, you cannot have it both ways.
This
And you know what?
whole article.
You can't go around, and you know what? It's like when Gary and I wake up in the morning, and then we're having our coffee, and I good morning, co-parent of the non-birthing variety. He goes, yeah, good morning, other co-parent of the, you know what I mean? It's like we're supposed to refer to each other like that, like we're just these, like, you know, it's ridiculous, the contradictions that they sort of come up with. And that's where it's like halfway through this article, it takes this twist where it's like, hold it, I thought you said it was traditional. Isn't it a trad? I thought you said it was this, and now it's not.
Yeah. It's like they think, I honest to God think that some of these far leftists truly believe that like masculinity or like traditional women are actually brainwashed, or like have somehow been altered in the mind, because to them, like, they can't fathom. They're just like, I don't understand putting other people first at all.
I'm sorry, like, that makes me just go like, and what did he use to alter my mind?
Right? Mm-hmm.
Like, how could this have happened? I'm so confused.
Well, you know, quite frankly, okay, so this is kind of a good segue. Did you ever see that BBC comedy brunch line? No. That brunch special? Okay,
no.
1 sec, because I did not. I didn't share audio because it was just an article. So let me hold on a sec. So this was actually from the BBC a while ago, and it was about like international, like, women. They shared on an International Women's Day. I think this is from like 2003. And
that's my birthday, by the way.
What is
International Women's Day?
Oh, lucky you. Lucky you. You've never seen this.
No.
Girl, first of all, I would 100%, they're trying to be like, it's comedy. It's supposed to be parody, but I 1000% would, like, I would be okay with it. Hang on. Ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
You're going to die.
Okay. For years, women have fought hard to ensure that our generation had an equal place in the workforce. And to all those women, we just want to say, thank you. But also, you. I am so tired.
Being a working woman sucks balls.
I work for a women's rights NGO, and every day I get letters from little girls saying, help me, I need an education. And I'm like, no, you don't. I had an education. You know what I need now? A nap. My Mother's Day, they used to say that a woman's place was in the kitchen. And to that I say, Why did that change? I work a 50-hour week in an architecture firm designing kitchens, and ironically, I can't find one night to cook a meal of my own. If I have to eat one more Tesco ready meal, I will. That's it. My mother raised me to be an independent woman. I don't want to do that. I want to marry a rich banker and go to brunch.
Yes.
Find rapid, hot hug, soul search. I made those last two up. No, literally, I made them. Now I'm a high earner. At the end of every day, I'm expected to. She's trying to say split the bill. I bought a stove cooker 4 years ago, and I have never had the chance to use it.
Oh yeah.
There was a time when women could just go to the bank and take money out. We didn't have to work for it. We could just have it. All for the small fee of sex with our husbands once a month. So this International Women's Day, take a step in the right direction. Backwards. No, there's steps there. Not a good idea.
Brought to you by the Women Against Tiredness Society.
Twats.
Like, this was a brilliant sketch. It was so well done. But it's also true. I do like I want to go to brunch. I've never
I've been
on
to
a
brunch.
Tuesday.
I've been to brunch. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. I have to
I
say,
wanna
like
go.
that was totally me. That was totally me with my small business that I started up, working 60 hours a week or whatever.
Yeah.
Gary doesn't really cook anything. We were like, and so every once in a while, I would like I'm making dinner and we're all going to sit down together and eat dinner together. And now my older one is the one that cooks, and he goes, oh yeah, he goes, I remember there was like a week that you made dinner twice in 1 week, and it was really cute. That's what he told me. He goes, it's really cute how you used to try and like string that together. So I mean, he had a firsthand version of how it's so ridiculously hard to do all of that.
Well, like, so this was something you and I were talking about. So when I left my old position for many, many reasons, but the main one also being that I got really sick of seeing all of these teachers on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and being like, I'm everything you fear. Like, this is what I'm teaching your children. And I'm like, look, second graders need to be learning how to like read, write, arithmetic, stuff like that. Like, they don't need to know, like they don't even have basic English concepts down. You're already confusing them because you're telling them stuff that has no base in reality and is not in the English language structure. And so I finally was like, F it. I'm done with this job. This opened up, a teaching position opened up at the elementary. Like, I'm going to go take it. Yeah. It's all like, it's a pay cut. It's a this, it's a that, it's whatever. But the trade-off is I now know exactly what's being taught because my daughter is in the class. So like, I know exactly what's being taught. I know what is being instilled. I know that I am doing the best that I can to teach these children
Where'd you go?
the knowledge that they're going to need so that they can continue on and grow into something else. But when I was at
and to me, that's like so completely boss, because it's like, we've been complaining about, the indoctrination and all of the extra nonsense that's been moved into the classroom. Lives of TikTok has made it painfully obvious some of this stuff is. And don't even get me started on these teachers that want to talk to your kindergartner about how they're polyamorous, because that's relevant somehow, about how they're polyamorous or this or that and what their sex life is like. Like, they are all protected. They're the ones that are protected. It's not the kids that are protected. So you have this teachers union. And PragerU just came out with an article about this. And I was like, dude, I've been talking about this the whole entire last couple years, because I mean, honestly, I moved to San Francisco so I could be in a really interesting sort of very artistic, free expression. But one of the things that I learned about the very far left liberals is they are liberal about exactly what they think you should be liberal about. And that's it. So they're not really liberal because they are the first ones to squash things down. And so if somebody had said, oh, Melissa, you're going to move out of this beautiful international city to move to a small town in Texas where you're going to enroll your son in a small Christian school, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that is where the world has brought me right now. So, and it's
Absolutely.
like, I haven't changed. It's like, I'm actually open-minded enough. It's like, I can mix in with this just fine, because, and knock on wood, so far, I've had a lot less criticism here. You know what I mean? And a lot less judgment here, and people being so much more open and friendly here in Texas than, one of my, and you'll love this as a teacher, because when my younger one was in grade school, because it's such an international city, there was a few moms that helped out at the school, and they were like, foreign. So their husbands were working and they had work visas. But when you come over with your husband who has a work visa, you can't work. Mm-hmm. You don't automatically have any way of working. And I remember asking when I'm all, what if you hated it here? What if you just wanted to go home? I said, you just would be kind of stuck. Like, you don't have a choice. I can't believe that somebody would put you in that position that you wouldn't have that. And one of the moms would go back to the Czech Republic and take her kids back like every year during the summer, and they'd spend the summer back there and see family. And when they came back from summer vacation and the kids are supposed to do like an oral presentation on what they did over the summer, her son was talking about how he went hunting with grandma and they got a bunch of rabbits, and she showed him how to make their, traditional, Czech stew out of the rabbits. And she was actually pulled aside and told that her son could not talk about that because it was very disturbing to the other children.
What?
So I'm all, oh yeah. And in that same school, my son was drawing a catalog of weapons from a video game, and some teacher's aide snatched his artwork away from him and told him he couldn't censored my child's artwork, told him he couldn't do that artwork, couldn't draw these weapons because it was violent. I'm all, and I had to go, babe, it's a drawing. Your drawing is not violent. You're not a violent person. That's what you chose. And I said, actually, what she did, censoring your artwork and the way that she did it, was actually really, really wrong. And I went to the school and I was absolutely livid. I said, I want to see this person who did this. I want them to apologize to him for doing that. And I said, I want you to recognize that some TA is censoring my child's artwork. Come on, where's the liberal in that? Where's the openness? And I said, and my child, my younger one's on the spectrum. I said, here we have a kid who's kind of quiet over here drawing a page full of weapons. I said, if we think we have the next school shooter, is that the way we're going to handle it? Because I think that right there, I said, I think we can see why those situations are becoming exacerbated. I said, that right there is plain as day.
So I'm going to be that's insane, especially because, if again, I see it all the time now. Do you know what 9 out of 10 kids draw a rocket shape as?
No, what?
It's a dick and balls.
It's a dick, isn't it?
And you're like, and they're like, look at my rocket. And you're like, yeah. And you have to remember that they are that's the thing, even though your son is obviously a little bit older than the age range that I teach, this is coming from a place of pure creativity, of pure innocence. It's,
oh my God, and boys make guns out of everything.
They make guns out of everything.
Everything.
I had 2 second graders pick up a stick and pretend it was I don't even think I could. It was a grenade. It was
Oh my
It's
gosh, I
just-
hope you pulled them aside and talked to them about their violent tendencies.
No, I did pull them aside though and tell them that they ever throw a real grenade that crappily that they're gonna die from it. Like boys, no. Here's how you throw it. This is the way. And they were
So,
like,
yeah, but this is the
"Whoa."
thing, is and that's why a big point of contention, with that Florida bill that came out is, you know what, I'm that Florida bill, it was like, don't say gay. It's like, first of all, we can't even agree on what the bill says because it doesn't say that. It was like some little blip in the preamble. It's not what the bill says. It doesn't talk about that at all. I said, but you have to really think about you guys, when it's like the parents, because when you're without that bill, it is a bunch of teachers that you don't know, and teachers' aides, and people that are supposed to be in these trusted positions, right? That are protected. They're in a union.
Position.
They're in a union that protects pedophiles.
Oh God,
they change their districts. They protect their jobs. They pay their legal fees.
Yep.
They're not protecting the children. They're all about protecting these pedophiles. And that's why one of the things that's been absolutely infuriating is like groomer is a gay slur. I'm like, I'm sorry, but pedophiles come in all sorts of orientations.
Oh yeah.
It's not a gay thing.
Well, and like the thing that blows my mind too is that female teachers who groom, like, oh, she's 22 and he's 15 and it's not that big of a deal. She's his teacher. That is a big deal. That's grooming. Like, why women pedos get a pass a lot of times, I will never understand. It just drives me absolutely insane. But like, you're right. They come like in all genders, all shapes, all sizes. It does not matter. And like the idea that, because really, again, that's that side, that's the left, that's the far left projecting again, where they are believing that like they're calling gay people groomers by when they do that. Like that's what's happening with that. It's pure projection.
they, which is like the far left on this.
Yeah.
And remember, we're not dealing in absolutes when we say they. We say they, we mean that particular subset of the left that thinks that they are protecting the children from their parents. Ugh. But when they're protecting, but it's like most parents are pretty like out to protect their children. Are there exceptions? Yes. And it's horrible. And I'm not saying that, people are being abused shouldn't be, that's still going to be reported. But let's also remember like these trusted teachers that are supposed to be talking to the kids about what's in their pants and how they might want to use it.
Yes. Like
they're not trained to do that. That's not a counselor. That's not part of their training.
Did you see the kindergarten teacher who got up on her desk and showed her kindergarten class how to use a dildo? Did you see that? All that happened to her was they moved her to a different school.
Yep, send me that.
Parents complained.
Did Libs of TikTok post that?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I missed that one. I liked the one who was polyamorous and also a witch. Taught fucking kindergartners.
Yep.
I'm like,
they
don't know how to tie their shoes. And I have, very liberal friends who'll be like, well, then they can't talk about traditional, parents either. And I'm all, they kind of don't.
They don't.
I seem to remember my first primary readers being Dick and Jane and a dog and a this and a that. Is, I mean, you're not covering Romeo and Juliet and heteronormative sort of things. And nobody's saying they can't talk about their partner. But I remember a favorite teacher when she was moving, just to finish out this thought, when she was moving, she was like, oh, my husband's got this internship for this thing. And I was like, I didn't even know you were married, because she never talked about it, because she talked about the children, because the children were her focus.
Like
Hey, look, we've been on long enough that we have spam.
Yay. Like I was sorry. I get excited and then I just start like throwing in my agreeing comments with your with what you're saying, but like, no, I totally get it. Like, especially like right now, like, I have a wedding ring and I wear it, but I don't draw attention to it. Like, I don't I don't stand in front of the class and I'm like, this weekend, my husband and I went to the vineyard where we picnicked and frolicked and did all of the like. Also, can we point out that these far leftists have really weird ideas about what like centrists or right-leaning or conservative married straight people do. Like, I don't remember the last time that I skipped in the park with a full picnic basket. Because first of all, guys, have you ever been on a picnic? Oh,
Yes.
it's exhausting. Like, you have to
Exhausting.
prep everything before you go. Then you have to pack it just so it doesn't fall apart. And then you have to find a spot, make sure you don't forget the blanket, spread everything out, fight off the ants, and eat, and then pack everything back up so you don't get attacked by bears. And if you do get attacked by bears, you have to pull out your Smith & Wesson and your bear mace, and then you got to outrun your partner, and it's just, it's so exhausting. Like,
It's absolutely exhausting. And I think the last time I went on a picnic, I got stung twice by the same wasp. No joke. I was like, okay, that picnic basket's very dusty. I have it. I hope to pull it out again someday. I want to keep it in my camper.
Yes.
But yeah.
But yeah, like, see, those are like special, like, those are maybe like once a year, once every 4 year kind of things. Just because, like, the amount of effort, because again, you're working. Your spouse is always working. Like, you have to actually plan and make time to do that, and a picnic is not a priority. But when you look at like the fact that all of these, did you see the one, I think it was from the Guardian, that gardening is racist?
Yes.
Like, I was like, I'm sorry, come again?
Yeah.
And it's just yeah, here it is. It's the weeding out horticultural's race problem. Like, what?
I mean, that just goes to the, like, you can find problems anywhere if you look hard enough. I mean, like, people look at this girl in her pink apron holding a baby and they can find problems. I'm like, I'm missing the problems. I'm just missing the problems in that.
I know. And it's just like, but because, like, when you look at it, they're like, gardening is racist, hiking is racist.
Oh God, not hiking.
Right? Yeah, bicycling, picnicking, and I'm like, what is it? Do you think all straight white people just like ride double like a 2-seater bicycle with a picnic basket?
That's a tandem. Yeah, that's a tandem bicycle.
Yes, there it is. Yes, tandem bicycle.
You don't even know the word.
I couldn't remember what it's called. Yeah, just like what do we like? Yes, I know that this is a thing on TikTok. I know that like hiking is very much a culture thing. I love, like, it's very like there's a huge hiking culture in the US, which makes sense because we've got 2 mountain ranges, for the love of God, like 2 massive mountain ranges.
Yeah.
Plus we have the smaller, like the smaller chains of mountains and stuff like that. And we've got the Badlands. We've got all this incredible terrain in this country. So it makes sense that there's this huge hiking culture out there.
Mm-hmm.
To call that racist, it just really confuses me. And sex, like, to say that it's it's homophobic and racist really confuses. Like, I was unaware that gay people couldn't hike, or that Mexicans or
my
black,
gay friends fucking love hiking. It's ridiculous.
I know, right? Like, I just don't understand.
They're all so fit. They're also fit. It reminds me of that Simpsons episode. Remember where Homer gets kicked out of the bar and the only other bar in town is a gay bar, and he goes, "I can't go to the gay bar. I'm fat." You're just like, oh yeah, that's what. Okay, so I will say that hiking, at least when I was younger, I grew up in the Poconos, which is the last little bit of the Appalachians, from 5 to 10 years old. And there wasn't any Black people there. But I mean, it wasn't that it was racist. They just weren't there. You know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't part of the thing. But I mean, this is why also too, when I got off the mountain, like, I, wanted to live somewhere that was more international, and I wanted to do more than blonde hair, which is why I didn't even stay in Southern California and kept going until I got to San Francisco. So I will say, like, that mountain and the skiing and all those sort of like very Nordic sports, that's just, it's like what they're coming out with, like, hockey is racist.
Oh, I
Because
know. I wanna
I'm
punch
like,
somebody.
I'm all okay. Then what's the NBA? Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Right?
we can't help it if they don't want to play hockey,
Exactly. Like, did any
or there's just not the population there to make a blip in the diversity meter. Like, it just doesn't exist that way. And hockey is just like, those winter
Yeah.
sports. Like, I have because we were all raised to be like super tomboys and not housewives. Like, I have two cousins that are Olympians, and one
Damn.
of them, I know, and they're both girls. So one of them, it was like women's cross country skiing, and it's like she competed a couple of times in the Olympics, and it's like, but those are all just swept by those Nordic countries. I mean, they're like raised on skis, you know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
toddlers on skis, and with the coaches and just the way that they have it. And it's like, if you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point, they talk about this in hockey too, like who those hockey stars are. Like, they've been able to kind of break it down to just like those ones who start really early, and
Yep.
yeah, just, there's just a lot more to it. So, if you don't have those early opportunities, chances are you're not going to excel at those sports.
Yep.
And
Because if you think about it, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, because if you think about it, like if you start, I mean, it's just like investing money. If you start skating at the age of 3, as opposed to, a sibling starting to skate at like age 9. Say there's a 6-year age gap, and you get to, like, the parents maybe couldn't have afforded it before, but now they're in a better position financially, and so
Mhm.
now everybody gets to start skating. Well, by the time that 3-year-old gets to their older sibling's age, they'll have 6 years of experience at the age of 9.
Right.
When
And a
that
coach.
9-year-old,
And a
yeah,
coach.
and a
Yeah.
coach, and that 9, but the 9-year-old sibling had 0 experience at the age of 9. And like, it's crazy when you think about it, because I remember I used to think, when people were like, yeah, if you don't have them into gymnastics by the time that they're 5, you're going to be a real struggle. It's going to be a real
Mhm.
struggle. And I was like, that's insane to me, because, like, I like 6, 7, 8, you're still young, you're still 9, 10, like, you're a baby. You can still do the things, and yes, you can, but the problem is you have a lack of experience. So you're going to be a 10-year-old in a class with a bunch of 5 and 6-year-olds.
Yep. Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point. Like, he goes into all of that in a way that makes you just look at that completely differently. And I will say, like, both of my cousins that competed at that level, they basically came from super sporty families. Like, the
Yeah.
skier, the mom was like a PE teacher, um and the parents competed as athletes as well. So it was just it's like what they think is fun is like torture. I'm like, I'm going to tap the keg and throw in this lasagna, and I'll be here when you get back. Like, it's
Put
just
my
like
feet
not
up.
my thing. Yeah, it's not my thing at all. But it's like, we just came from a place where it was like so incredibly like kind of isolated and in the country. We like couldn't be racist because it's like the only people of color that I encountered on a daily basis were basically like TV stars and entertainers. Like, that was what my influence was and what the input was, what I got. And when people start talking about things like reparations, I'm like, I'm German. I said,
Yeah.
we came over and we like farmed like pretty much land that nobody else wanted to live on.
Yep.
Except for some Native Americans, which I also have some Native American in me too. And I said, and we didn't have slaves. We just had a bunch of kids.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that was our workforce. Like, we didn't like, buy a workforce out of somewhere or
Nope,
like
you made it.
indenture anywhere. Yeah. So it's like, so when you're like looking for reparations, it's like, I just don't know. I see how that would be possible.
Yeah, that's such a, I hate to use the term because like, I know it gets used so much, but like, that's a super slippery slope.
Not the slippery slope. She said it.
The Irish did not come over. The Irish got brought over very similarly to
hello.
other individuals. And then you go to the and people are like, oh well, California, land of what was it? Where the streets are paved with gold and it's the land of opportunity. They just
For who?
guys like Chinese. Their workforce was indentured Chinese.
Mhm.
But because we can't say the other word right now on the YouTube, but that it's for people to think that only one specific group suffered or was held beneath another group. It's not true. Now
it's a story as old as time.
Yeah.
It's a humanity. It's a human problem.
It's a very big human problem. And to look at this, it's to put that into perspective, and then you look at something like this, and this is an alt-right ideology, but based off conspiracy theories that's gonna harm young women. Literally, they make it sound like if you read this, if you check this woman's TikTok out or her Instagram out, you're gonna immediately want to become a traditional wife.
Well, I think the point was going back to the paragraph before is your daughter could be watching this and have this sort of bad influence. She might actually grow up to think having kids is a good thing and staying home with them is beautiful and rewarding.
Yep. It's
I'm all okay.
Woe is them and then this, oh God, this.
What is a trad wife? You want to read that one?
Sure. I'm going to do, so I have no idea who this Piazza is, but I'm going to do a voice because this is the voice I heard in my head when I was reading this.
Go.
A trad wife on social media is a type of influencer that espouses a so-called traditional form of being a wife and mother, Piazza says. She says they usually stay at home and exclusively take care of the children and the home and show off their prowess in the domestic arts. While they often identify themselves as celebrating a woman's work and role at home, Piazza says it's so much more than that. The trad wife tag or label often comes with disparagement of working women and feminist values.
Oh my God. I saw the opposite of that going through TikTok. I saw so many more people go through and just follow that trad wife hashtag. And when I kind of just started flipping, I spent about 30 minutes kind of flipping through, and I saw parodies of a trad wife, and I saw people doing duets and talking about how fucking ridiculous they are. So to me, it was the other way around.
Yep.
Okay.
Trad wives tend to,
but hold on, don't miss the quote. It says, ladies, you don't have to be a feminist. Sorry, that's a true statement. It's like free speech. I'm not out to tell anybody else how they want to define and what's going to make them happy. If they want to stay home and bake bread, I will come over and eat it.
Yes, exactly. Homemade butter as well that you churn.
Oh my God, amazing.
Bring it over. Because you're just impressed with it. You're like, I wish, because a small part of almost everybody, man, I wish I had the time to, because you know that that's an investment in time and skill, and to make that happen.
Oh, it's huge skill. Yeah. The best bread that I had during COVID was made by one of my clients who is a Jewish doctor. And she just was because she had so many kids, she was like, they're not in school. One of us has to stay home. Was my husband going to stay home? And it was just so one of us is going to stay home. So she stayed home and homeschooled and made bread. And she is one of the smartest, funniest, interesting women I know. And she totally did this. And I'm going to send her this article and be like, I hope you didn't post any of your bread online, because you might be on a watch list. You could be on a watch list now.
You're on the no-fly list is where you're at.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Oh, man. And it's crazy because when you look at it, this isn't this comment, this quote isn't slapping feminists. It's not slapping career women.
That's why I was really having a hard time finding the disparaging thing. I mean, we went through the one long post about, it was kind of pretentious.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
It
what else
wasn't
you gonna
saying
flex
like,
on?
yeah, it's not saying you're a shitty wife and slapping you with an ugly label like being racist because you work outside of the home.
Right? Also, at no point did I see her type out or emoji or anything like, if you vote a certain way,
One of
don't
those
buy my
secret,
aprons.
one of those secret, one of the secretly racist and sexist or misogynist emojis. I hate those.
Yes, one of the
Yeah.
dog whistles. The
One of the
dog
dog
whistle
whistles.
emotions. Like,
Okay, keep going in that voice because it's really entertaining.
this killed me because they literally call this a movement when it is in fact just what women have been doing for hundreds and thousands of years.
So yeah, in knowing women for 30 years, like I've actually had conversations with a couple of young women that were like, those women that were like, I really want to find a husband and get married and have a baby. And it would be like the standout. Like it was a very small group, especially like, just probably because of where I was and at the level that I was kind of in a more expensive sort of thing. Like, and she'd be like, I just want to have a baby. And I did her mom's hair too. Oh. And I was like, really? After all of it, like how far women have come, you want to like have a baby and stay home? And she goes, that's what my mom did. My mom's got a really nice life. I want that life for myself. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's like where I didn't have that experience. Like I didn't have like this happy, harmonious kind of childhood with like a really attentive, emotionally available mom. Like, so I wanted to get out of there and be as independent as possible because growing up being dependent on the people that I was dependent on never felt safe. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So I have been financially independent my whole entire life up until COVID.
Wow.
And you know what? And I'm going to say too, like, and this might blow some people's minds. It's like, Gary likes that I'm independent. And you know what I mean? Like he loved the fact that it was like, I wasn't financially dependent on him. And he loves the fact that I have my own life and I have my own friends and I have my own opinions. And it's like, we do have some of that whole, like where he had the stay at home mom and I was working all the time. And every once in a while it would pop up like, why haven't you done this traditional kind of thing that you should have done? Like, I think one morning I was like getting my toddler's diaper bag together and making sure that my older one had breakfast. And I was getting ready to head out the door and go work at my own business, and he had his own business, and it was just like, having a toddler can be really a stressful time. And I think he asked me about like where his fucking socks were, and dude, I almost fed him his socks. I don't think he's ever asked me where his socks are for the entire like last decade. like he'd rather just go to the store and buy new socks than ask me like where his socks are. Cause I was like, are you fucking kidding me? With like, where are your socks? So it's like, but you know what, that was just, it was a transitional sort of discrepancy. Yeah. It's not really his fault. It's not really my fault. And it was one of those things like once we recognized it, we just became aware of it and started being like a lot more understanding of those things. It's like, if you wanted to have a housewife, like you could have probably gotten one.
Probably.
But I mean, it's like nobody looks at me and thinks that I'm going to be somebody's like housewife. Like
I do. I think you're going to be like the coolest grandma because you're going to learn to bake the bread and you're going to learn like, but you're going to learn the cool hack ways. And so you're going to tell like, you're going to tell your grandkids, you can be like, hey,
no, remember I'm the one who finagles the fancy French bakery to open early just for me.
This is true. Do you have a fancy French bakery down there now?
Not here in Texas, no. But somebody did send me a box of amazing cookies this morning. I know, that bitch. Sending me cookies. I'm all, do I look like I need any fucking cookies? And Thanksgiving is next week. I should be fasting until then. Like, why are you sending me cookies? But It's a new friend, and I did her hair here at the house, and she was trying
Aw.
to, she was trying to do
Yes.
something nice for me.
No, that's a thing in the Midwest and the South. If you're gonna get a lot of beer and food, a lot of beer, a lot of food,
Yeah,
lot
sounds
of
very
beer.
Wisconsin.
It's
Oh, David, the
it's-
gay Republican, he says, "I love you guys. You're amazing, David. You're amazing."
You're
So
amazing.
got
Yeah,
to hang out. I got to hang out with him a little bit in Orlando.
nice.
Yeah, it was really nice.
No, we but also, David, you're not supposed to really exist because all Republicans are straight, white, crusty, old males with lots of money. David, do you have lots of money? Because we could be besties,
He just gave you $5,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we just need to earn a little bit more so we can open a fancy French bakery down in Texas region. I almost said, no doxing. Down in a Texas region, so that Mrs. Nerderotic can, persuade them to open their doors early.
Yeah,
And she can
yeah.
give all the.
Well, you know, I will suss those things out.
Oh, I know you will.
We're still
Like a bloodhound.
Yeah, we're still figuring out what I'm gonna do besides, hanging out. Yeah, bringing Gary smoothies. Yes, that's bringing Gary smoothies, and coffee seems to be my main job now. But you guys, something else that Gary really loves is that I'm actually quite strong for a girl. Like I mentioned that I have 2 Olympic cousins, right? Like kind of a kick-ass girl and kind of a tomboy. When Gary talks about how he was working in LA, I wanted to change my hair color, but I didn't want to like strip my hair and do all this. So I basically just shaved my head and started recoloring it a new color. Nice. And he came back from being in LA for a week, and I had like shaved my head and did it like bright red, like Annie Lennox. And he was so used to me changing my hair like that. He actually just rubbed my head, said, "That's cute," and walked in the house. Like that was just like, I don't know, like I had a nice sweater on. Like it was just nothing to him. And also I remember I just moved hundreds of boxes of comic books.
Oh God, I can't even.
And I lifted those comic books and I said, "This is why you don't have a little wafy Kate Moss wife, because she would not be carrying your long boxes of comic books."
Yeah, you snap. Like that's the thing too. Like the because dancers. It's so insane to me when they think that like models, who some do work out, I will give them that, but like usually they just have a don't eat. Yeah, they have a really low calorie intake. But then you have like gymnasts and dancers and swimmers, and they look really small, but they are basically pure muscle. Yeah, like they will snap you like a twig. Yeah. And it just goes to show that just like femininity is really more of like an attitude and sort of how you view yourself and men in general, and how like our dynamics work in the world, and kind of how you present yourself. And also just like, I don't know, have you ever yelled at anybody for mansplaining to you?
Yeah, probably Gary.
Okay.
When he starts explaining like really obvious things to me, I'm like, well, thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, God, don't say that. And I'm all, don't do that.
Don't do that. Yes.
Don't do that then. That's where it's like, I'm definitely like what I would consider like an old school sort of feminist about things. Like we have a very sort of equal thing happening.
Yes, egalitarianism, not this weird, like it's very bizarre to me because modern feminists like want to actually be men. They don't want to be women. They want to be men, because that's the message that they're pushing. Even if that's not their actual goal, that's what's being pushed. And so it confuses me because we fought so hard to just be on the same playing field, and now it feels like we kind of want to burn it. and stand up in the bleachers and watch it burn, like the psycho ex-girlfriend who burns your clothes inside your car, something like that. You know what I mean? But you go back to like feminists' roots, and it's like we want to be able to vote, we want to be able to get paid, like paid for our work, not paid for the fact that we're women and you don't think that our labor is as valuable as men's.
And also the big one, like we want to be able to share that same sex positivity attitude. That was also a really big one.
That was, unfortunately,
like,
we gone way too far with that one. That one got lost.
Some people would say so, but I mean, like, just like being a housewife is as old as time, being a sex worker is as old as time too.
Oh yeah, that's like what the Wild West
it's not on. It's not new.
Nope.
And it's had its like thing. So Bubba Doom once said, he said you can black eye someone. I'm all, well, we've got a picture of me with a big black eye, but that was from a concert, not a fight.
Aw, I'm sorry.
Man, it's okay. Somebody did a big stage dive, and unfortunately they landed on my face. But lucky for me, I had many margaritas and I didn't really feel it. When it's like you can feel it swelling and the skin stretching, and it actually doesn't really hurt, but it's bad.
Yep.
Like I went over to one of my girlfriends and she goes, "Oh, what's the matter?" And she looked at me and she goes, "Oh my God, I'm gonna get you some ice." Like, it was not good.
Should have been like, yeah, some ice and another margarita. Make sure that it's really strong.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
I've snapped some bones before, and I was not inebriated for any of them. And I was like, God, I wish I was drunk right now. Like those words, like I am not a big drinker. I don't drink. I don't remember the last time I had a drink, and I only drink when I do drink. It's only when if my husband is there. But like oh my Jesus, like when I snapped my clavicle in half, I was like, oh, just give me the bourbon, like just give me the bottle. I will down the whole damn thing right now because it's a 40-minute drive to the hospital. Like, just give me the bourbon. I want to be drunk right now because it was bad. It was so bad.
I think you had a super chat you missed too.
Which one? From Bubba?
Yeah.
Yeah. On a stream, I seen Agent Bossy Boots bring Gary a smoothie, and you brought it by crawling, not wanting to interrupt the stream. It was sweet, and it was a strong thing for a spouse to do that week. It was impressive. Respect. Yeah.
Well, obviously my stealth move was not very impressive because it was not. It was like, yeah, help. Everybody saw that. I was like, God damn it.
So like, really, what actually ended up happening? Not very many people saw you come into the room.
Okay.
But Gary drew attention because like you crawled out of frame, like you weren't in frame, and you like all of a sudden though in the camera you see this cup kind of like slide in the frame, and then Gary, like all your ninja moves just went out the window because he turned and looked down at you and he's like, "What are you doing, babe?" And that's when, by the way, that is when the like, oh yeah, what is she doing down there under the desk, Gary? Like, oh my God,
gosh, is that a thing?
The chat died. Like the chat went on a rampage that there could have been 100 of us mods and we never would have been able to catch it. It was gone. We were like, oh, we gotta let this one roll out. And then you were crawling away. I gotta go find that live stream because it was brilliant. You're crawling away, and Gary's like, he's like, you don't have to crawl out. They know you're here.
I'm all shut up. But did you see him out me today? I'm going on a stream talking about feminism, and he showed everybody the sandwich I made him.
I know.
I was like, dude,
what kind of sandwich?
Dude,
it's a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich.
It was sausage.
Yep.
Yeah,
it was
sausage. It's very British. It's a flipped egg sandwich with sausage and cheese.
Yum.
But with lots of hot sauce on a brioche bun because he likes his buns spicy.
There you go. Picky. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he's a little spoiled now. Oh my God. Now he used to like beg for these standing appointments for getting his hair done and stuff. And now he's like the full cosmetology experience at home all the time.
He's like, babe, you can never leave. You can never go back.
Yeah,
can
go
never-
on. Okay, go on with your voice.
Thank
Those
you,
those within the movement.
Yes. So, because this is a different, so this is Alan Petit. So this is a trad wife. So I have a different voice for her though. So those within the movement have a very different opinion.
Hold on, is this her response?
Yes, this is the response.
Okay.
So this is, yeah. So this is Petit BBC. So a self-proclaimed trad wife, Alana Petit defines the term on her own website, the Darling Academy, which aims to provide education on proper British etiquette. Okay, hold on, I can do this. A trad wife is not subservient, Petit writes. Though a traditional housewife may submit to her husband, she is not considered of lesser importance to him, or allow herself to be in a position that threatens her rights. A traditional housewife chooses her husband based on his ability to care for people, provide for their children, and most importantly, upon his integrity and values. Petit told to BBC that her role is submitting to and spoiling her husband like it's 1959. I like that. Instead of like party like it's 1999, we went with submit and spoil like it's 1959. But like, this is a thing too. Like, I get what they're trying to say here with domestic is the epitome of femininity, but
learn to be domestic.
Yes,
it's domestic is the epitome. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like I don't know.
It's just keeping your house clean.
Yeah, but it's keeping your house clean is feminine. Well, then they would have been real fucking disappointed.
No, but this is like the thing is when they say learn to be domestic, they're talking about the flower arrangements and the pillow arrangements and the quilting and the knitting and the PTAs and the scheduling and the house budget and the grocery shopping. They're talking about all of that because that is part of being domestic. Mm-hmm. But when it like boils down to it, it's literally just holding your household together, however that is. Like, if you're two people working full time, guys, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Like, my husband and I both work we at one point were both working like 10-hour, 11-hour days at a time.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
my job.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
We did. Well, yeah. Sorry. But I know how that is because I have done it. I'm not doing it currently, but I've done it.
No. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, you get home and you're both exhausted, but you have to look at the situation. His job was very labor intensive. Like he's moving concrete, he's lifting brick, he's dealing with chemicals to try and balance out pH levels in water. Like he's doing all this crazy stuff. He's going up and down water towers. He's going down into lagoons. Like his day is just, it's extremely
taxing.
Physical.
Yeah,
yes.
It's taxing.
It's super fit. Yes. Exact. Yes. Perfect word. And whereas my job was much more like mentally and emotionally taxing because some of the people that I will tell you this: the proclaimed liberals that I worked with were some of the most closed-minded people I'd ever met in my life.
And that's how it seems to go.
I was like, that's a little bit like. I was like, really? That's your take on that? All right, that's okay. I'm not even gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I'd get back at the end of the day, and same thing, mad dash across town to pick up the kids and just get them fed and cleaned. And ask them how their day was and check their homework, help them with their homework. You know, do you need anything for projects or for school? Like, is there anything going on? And you sort of kind of feel out of the loop a little bit with your kids because
you're fragmented in your efforts. Like nobody has that much bandwidth.
Nope. And you get home and then I have to look at my husband. I have to look at my kids and I'm like, okay, everybody is hungry. My husband is like dead on his feet and he's going to have to get up and do it all over again tomorrow. Like one of us has to make supper. it's going to have to be me because, like, yes, I'm emotionally drained and mentally drained, but I am nowhere near as physically taxed as he is. So you get up and you make supper. And what's crazy to me is that my biggest issue with feminism messaging right now is, like, I shouldn't say biggest, one of the biggest is this idea that if you become a career person, because guys, we're gonna be perfectly honest, not everybody becomes a high powered, attorney or partner or doctor or whatever, CEO, CFO, entrepreneur, whatever it is. A lot of people, like, they have their dream job and they push and they try, but you have to pay the bills in between. So you get a job that's not your dream job, and eventually 7 years later you're still at that job that's not a dream job. Like, that's really the long and short of it. And so you're trying to do the mom thing, and you're trying to do the wife thing, and you're just so, like, you're so exhausted because what feminist messaging currently, the propaganda, it isn't telling you right now, someone still has to cook. Your kitchen still has to get cleaned. Your laundry still has to get washed, dried,
Not
folded.
the laundry.
Like,
yeah,
like
right.
the laundry, the vacuuming, the dusting, just normal general pickup. Like, that stuff still has to get done, and a majority of us cannot afford a maid service,
No,
let alone
yeah,
like a live-in
definitely
maid.
not. Yeah.
So
Oh my God,
now,
a live-in maid? Are you kidding?
right?
Who
Holy
had
cow.
that?
Talk about moneymaker. Like, good
Yeah.
God. I actually considered doing that, but then I was like, nah, I couldn't live.
I don't even want to do that for myself. Why would I do that? I want to say that DJ Direwolf, what he sent a sticker to you, and then he has something here that I do want to read in the chat, which is cushy office jobs have made women think they go through as much as intensive, stressful shit as dudes they sneer at that keep civilization going. And again, I'm going to translate this as we're not talking about absolutes when he talks about women, because we know that's not true. So my dad, when he came off the farm basically and then went into the military, right? And when he got out of the military, he worked for his uncle's moving and storage company. So my dad was basically a truck driver, right? And he helped people move. So he would drive like and when I was in the Poconos, he worked out of Philadelphia. So he did a lot of Philadelphia, Boston, New York. And then he started driving cross country. And so he'd be gone for 2 weeks and home for 2 weeks and gone for 2 weeks and home for 2 weeks. And that's sort of like how he did his thing. And we eventually, because the boom was happening and everybody was moving to California, he was in California a lot of the time. So he moved us to California thinking he would see us more if we were on that end. And because, and the weather was so nice and it was just a nice change. And all so we moved out there. So I grew up working in my dad's moving and storage company with men. And I mean, like, I was out on jobs at 15, 16 years old, packing household goods. That was my job. I worked at the family business, which was a moving and storage company. And this is where it's like, I was like, the tomboy in me really kind of thrived in that situation. Like, I liked being around the dudes all day long. It's like, yeah, they shit talk and whatever, but it was also like a lot of fun. And I didn't want to work around women all day long. And when we talk about like bosses, and we talk about this whole fucking entire article, what we were kind of touching on before is like, where's the women supporting women in this? I mean, the conspiracy theory and racist, because she's making a choice to stay home with her children and she wants to be proud of what her life choice is. I'm like, and people and like Katie Couric is going to be down on that because she thinks it's this big step backwards, but it's really just some people not stepping into what they consider forward. Like, this is the liberal hypocrisy that we're just like, that is the constant sort of problem that keeps women at odds. And when I go and I think about like my bosses that I've had over the years, my female bosses were the worst.
Yep, same.
And that's why I really, really tried to, as a woman, just be like as supportive as I could be to the other, to any woman that I sort of hired. And sort of like, one of the first people that I hired was a mom who both her sons were playing basketball. Like they were a very tall family. Both of them were playing basketball, her sons. So they were going around to all these things. And the company that she worked for wouldn't let her go down to part-time.
Oh God.
So she could support her, junior and senior high school students in their sport. And she's like, "Can I come to the new salon and work with you because they won't let me go part-time?" And I was like, "Absolutely."
Wow.
Yeah, I said, "You just tell the desk what your schedule is."
Oh.
Like, are you kidding me? And it's like, and it was like, and that was a female manager at the salon. And it's like, but it was a female manager without any children.
Yep. Well, and
I'm not saying that you have to have children to have any sort of empathy for like people wanting to be parents and spend time with their kids, but it definitely it wasn't respected. And it was a big salon, and that was the one that I worked at where 3 of us were pregnant all at the same time.
Dang.
And so I ended up with like a lot of hardworking moms that just needed like a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah. No, God dang. Like, you're awesome. I wish you'd been my boss. My husband actually, it's a good thing that he was deployed. When my sergeant told me this, I had a female sergeant. I was like 6 months pregnant with my second, and my blood pressure skyrocketed and couldn't figure out why. And as you know,
those things tend to do. Yeah, you get those mystery things.
And so they're like, "We got to make sure this isn't preeclampsia. You need to go on bed rest for a week." Male staff sergeant, totally fine with it. Female sergeant was like, absolutely, like, and she had kids. She's like, absolutely not. If I can run myself into the ground and I work so hard that I have, like, this is what she threw in my face. If I can work so hard that I miscarry, you can too. Like, she literally wanted me to work to the point that my child would die in my womb.
Would be in danger.
Like, that is where she was at. And I looked at her. My staff sergeant was like, "Sergeant, go to," like, he looked at her like she was insane, because that is insane.
That's insane.
But he was like, "Go to my office, like, right now." And then he turned to me and he was like, "If you want to file a report, I perfectly understand." And I said, "No, but I will be telling my husband about this, and I'm sure he'll have some choice words for the sergeant." And the staff sergeant's like, "He has my blessing as long as there's no death threats." And I'm like, "Can't promise that." And he's like, "I understand."
What was that? What was that she just
right?
gave you as a death threat?
Exactly.
I have to do a really short interjection here for Bubba Doom and ask him if I can get a radio check and if there's any smokies.
Oh, there you go.
I was giving him some CB talk.
I like it.
You'd be like 10-4, can I get a radio check? And then whoever's out there on the airwaves would just kind of respond back to you, and you'd be like, "I'm heading down the 80 at the blah blah blah," and like, and before we had GPS that gave us like speed check alerts, the truckers up ahead of you would tell you. So yeah, and my dad thought he was Burt Reynolds, by the way.
Oh,
yeah, he thought he was Smokey and the Bandit. Coming in loud and clear, driver. Oh,
if my dad had ever been a truck driver, he probably would have thought he was Burt Reynolds too. I want to point, and I do want to point something out really quick that I see Tom McD71 talking about. My mom worked and took care of the house in the 80s. My mom was a dietitian. I helped out with the chores growing up. I did too. Like, I'm not saying it can't be done, but you had to be like, yes, you probably did smaller chores when you were younger, but I don't, as a mom of multiple children, there are certain things that my 4-year-old cannot do that my 10-year-old can. But when I did not have a 10-year-old, it was just me with, like, my oldest was 6 when our youngest was born. And so I had four under the age of 6. That's insane. I was also going to school full time. I was reserve in the Marines at that point, and I was working 2 jobs. I fried myself. I burnt out so bad. It was horrific. And I'm telling you right now, like, the thing that suffered the most was my house, because there was just, like, by the time I got home, I was dead. I was dead. And at this point, my husband was pulling like 18-hour work days because he was out on a rig. He was out on a job. So he's exhausted. He's tired. He needs his rig stuff washed. He needs this done. And he'd have to do it himself sometimes, but I always try, like, it's like, no, I really need to try and do this. But man, oh man, like, when I was living that life, it was not my best life. It's not anybody's best life to
It's nobody's best life.
Holy
100%.
crap. Like, I would not wish that on anybody. I was so exhausted, and because I was doing so much, I was not my best at any of those things. I wasn't the best mom. I wasn't the best wife. I wasn't the best homemaker, Marine, or employee, like, or student. Like, it's insane. And it was just he was Bubba Doom. He was. Not no more, because oil went way south. But it's like, that's the thing. When I see stuff like this, it is because, like, the other thing too is most guys, again, we're generalizing, it's not all, but most guys would be content with, like, a recliner and a TV. Like, the TV doesn't even have to be on a stand. Like, they'll put it on the ground, and then they'll have their console.
They don't fucking care.
Yeah, they'll have it on their console. Like, they'll have their console, their TV, and their chair, and they're fine. And so that's what. But, like, so it's a very feminine thing to come in and make a house into a home, and, like, add those warm touches, and add that, like, here, let's take the TV off the floor, and we're gonna put it up on, this just small media center, so that it's at eye level with you, so you no longer have a hunchback.
Let me give you a really good example about that. And this is not my partner. This is my brother. So I went to trade school, went to beauty school, and made a really decent living. My brother is a master marine mechanic, and he's really single, and he has a great house, which he's, like, pretty much redone himself, like, from the bottom up. Like, he's had the house down to studs, and he can fix anything, and engineered his whole thing. And he goes, oh my God, for summer, I got us this, I upgraded the he's sending me pictures of electrical panels. I'm like, yes! Oh, that's so sweet. He's like, I upgraded the electricity, and I got this metal laser something table so I can machine up my own parts to make this thing. And I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about right now, but I'm but I'm also when I was at his house and, like, doing laundry and stuff, I went to go put some laundry in his room, and there's nothing on his headboard. No. And, like, there's nothing here. And these sheets look like he comes home and just, like, flops down. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm, like, off to the store. I'm off buying sheets. I'm sending him mood boards for what I'm going to do to his bedroom, because this looks like you're a fucking psychopath.
It does look like the mattress on the floor.
This is not an inviting situation, so I hope you were just planning on staying single.
Right? Like,
and my brother's like, what are you talking about? Like,
I don't get it.
But everything functions in his house. So in our house, we have this overly decorated house with, like, a broken microwave and the thing that's, like, over here that needs to be fixed, and a piece of fence that still needs to be fixed. And I'm like, well, when my brother comes, he'll come and fix those things for me. And then I go to his house and I decorate his house for him. So we've just got this, like, situation, but it's like, And I don't even think of myself as being particularly domestic, but I do go through life trying to make things prettier.
Yes. That's a very feminine thing to do. Because, like, it makes you,
And
like,
there it is.
appreciation.
Yeah.
So that's that little bit of, and that, like, that's just a natural thing. I'm not saying that guys can't have that tendency, but it is far more common in women. Like, it wasn't, so we went to a barbecue at a buddy's house when we were still active out in Cali. And we walked in, and, like, the barbecues that I'm used to, you always bring something. You don't
Yes.
show up empty-handed.
Ever.
So,
Oh my God,
yeah.
no.
So we showed up, and he's like, "Oh my God, you brought stuff." So I guess we'll have more than ribs. So that should tell you what his apartment looked like, because the only thing at the barbecue was the ribs. Like, there's no potato salad? No potato salad, no macaroni salad. There was nothing else there. And I was like,
Well, I'm German, so I do make a mean potato salad, and I am pretty good at baking. So I do have, like, a couple of little, like, niche things, but yeah.
Hey, so that's all you need. No, I was like, I'll be right back. I turned and I left, and I went, because I didn't have time to make them, but I went to this, like, little deli down the road, and I got potato salad. I got 2 different kinds of potato salad. I got some of their deviled eggs. Like, I picked up all these sides, corn.
You know, normal barbecue sides.
Like, he's like, oh my God, like, it's a feat. Like, normally we just have ribs and play games. And, like, you turn and you look at the television, and now he does have, like, 2 recliners, like, power recliners that are attached.
And the TV's on milk crates.
Yes, the TV was on milk crates.
Of course it was.
His mattress was on the floor. His mattress was on the floor, and I was like,
that's a no-go zone. That's a no-fly zone. No.
I was like, I'm not even going to be sleeping in that bed. I was like, I will be right back. I went and got, those black metal frame bed, like, I just got one of the, like, nothing super fancy. I got one of those, and I got one of those free float, like, one of those headboards that uses the pressure of the bed to stay upright, Yep.
I had both of those at the house when we were clearing it out to get it sold.
Yes, exactly.
Because I cleared everything out except for, like, the most basic.
Yep. And those are supposed to be basic like, you chill with those for 6 months, a year, maybe 18 months, because you're saving up for that nicer that bedroom set, right? With the side tables. Yes. Yep. No, to this day, he still has that same headboard and the same black bar base for the bed. And I'm like, dude, you have money. Upgrade. He's like, why? It's fine the way it is. He needs good. Oh, she muted. I was gonna say, like, it's been like 10 years. It's okay to, like, go into the next bigger size. I don't know. It just, oh man. But yes, as a rule, in general, oh yes, he did have, yes, there was. Oh no, what happened? Why can't I click things? Can you hear me? There it is. Yes, he most definitely had beer. Beer was very much there. Absolutely. Many kinds. Everything from Natty Light all the way up to Bud Heavy. It was everywhere, everywhere. But, I think a lot of people, especially, like, feminists, like to push, like, modern feminists, because you see she's got, like, this pretty, like, this is a gorgeous tulip arrangement. It's very simple, but it's very elegant. She has, like, the classic gold brass fixtures on the faucet with the old time, like, handles. She's got the toaster. She's prepping. She's following some type of recipe. If you were unaware, that is what she's looking at. This is a book easel, and this is the page holder. This could be for, like, an iPad, but based off of what I can see, this looks like your typical book easel. And then this holds open your page. And so she's prepping food, probably for supper or something like that. And, she's got beautiful window in the background. Like, this is all deliberate. The blinds, or I know what this is called. Anyway, you see it, the curtain, and then they've taken the pots off because obviously they want her to be the focal point, but you've got your pot rack up here where you can hang stuff. She's got very classic, very clean lines, all of these good things, right? But this is domestic this is like expert domestic level, as opposed to, the mom who is working 2 jobs, or the mom and the dad who are both full-time workers and put in those long days and do all of those things. And the idea that you can not float through life, but the idea that you can do like a 15-hour day or a 12-hour day and come home and fulfill any type of household duty or marital duty, it at first probably very capable, but over time it's going to wear, and you're going to get like it's going to get hard, because that's a lot of energy, and you can't pour from an empty vessel, right? So if you're not getting fulfilled, if you're not finding fulfillment, it's going to get harder and harder to do the things that you see as more tedious or more taxing or just straight up stupid, stuff like that. But these are all things, that have taken time, and she's built up, and it's a lot like Gary did not buy all those action figures in one day. I don't think. We'll have to ask Melissa when she comes back. I'm going to go with probably not. Especially because he likes to show off pictures of his newest purchases, and make me want to spend obscene amounts of money that I don't have. But the idea that, you're just gonna be able to do this right away, to have oh, well, because we're women, because the way this article is making it sound, it's like, well, because you're women, you have this natural inclination towards domestic tendencies, and being a bit more submissive and doing all of these things. So you have to fight it. Have to fight the power. But that's kind of insane on its face, just in my humble opinion. But you can be a stay-at-home wife or mom without being an expert level domesticator. It's just confusing, I guess, that that people would think that you had to do it, like that you have to go to this level. You know what I mean? It's like I was talking about before, when I was doing all of those jobs and everything like that, I wasn't my best at any of them because I was just spread way too thin. Way too thin. There's no way you can give your best when you're trying to juggle, 6 people, like 6 different schedules at work and 9 different schedules at home, and new hires and outgoings, and all of these things that require attention. Like, you're not going to be able to be your best. You're not going to be able to focus in class. You're not going to be able to study. You're not going to be like, stuff's going to get turned in last minute. It's probably not going to be great because you had to rush. And there's just, when you try to wear too many hats simultaneously, it does become overwhelming. And that's where I think this attitude of like, well, I work hard all day, so why should I have to cook, or why should I have to clean, or why should I have to? And the answer is pretty simple. If you don't, no one will. It is that simple, because you have to. It's called being an adult. If you don't want to work full time and then have to deal with a household, there seems to be one reasonable, obvious answer. So it's just food for thought. But like, you have these women who are super high powered in their careers, or just getting it. They're just boss. And they seem to have it all figured out. I don't know. That seems like lightning in a bottle to me, so I don't really want to chase it down and try and shove that lightning into my own bottle, because it'll probably shatter and cut my arms and hands up, and then I'll get hit with the lightning bolt, and that just sounds unpleasant. I don't want that. But I mean, like Melissa here, she's far and away one of the best women I've ever met, and so incredibly strong. The stuff that she has been able to do and overcome. Yasker should write a sonnet about it, or a limerick, whichever he'd prefer. I do love her. She's awesome. But I guess I'm gonna carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Just kidding. Breaking into some Kansas, eh? Scroll through the tradwife hashtag, and you'll quickly see Petite's words come to life. Your feed will be flooded with images of smiling women, frilly aprons, and optimistic quotes in cursive. What does that matter? About the joys of homemaking. It is joyful. Why are you such a joy suck? It's rude. Looking through those images, you might wonder what harm these women could be doing to anyone outside their home. And as it turns out, it might be quite a bit. So ominous. So ominous. It's terrifying. A woman wants to be a good wife and mother, and she's negatively impacting the entire world because of it. Oh, perish the thought. For as long as I can remember, all I've ever wanted was to be a mom and a wife. When I entered my teen years, that goal suddenly wasn't good enough for the people around me. I even had someone tell me that I need to go to college even if I wanted to stay at home, and taking sewing classes and cooking classes. How ridiculous. I held strong to the calling and desire to be a stay-at-home wife and mother. Didn't do any of the normal college prep in high school, as I had no desire or need to go to college. God brought my husband to me when I was 17. Of course, we waited a few years to get married. Honestly, something I would change it if I were there. If I could, there was really no reason to wait after I turned 18. And while I have had to work a few times, I'm so thankful now that I'm able to stay home, be a homemaker, and homeschool, and having the experience of working has made me even more thankful to be home. Yes, that sounds...
That's probably true.
Right? So, I know you didn't quite hear this one. Looking through the images of frilly aprons, smiling women, and optimistic quotes in cursive. Because
writing cursive is racist now too, right? I'm sure.
About the joys of homemaking, one might wonder what harm these women could be doing to anyone outside their home, and it turns out it might be quite a bit. So they're doing tons of harm outside their home that these women don't. These women,
holy shit.
The thing about this article that they don't realize, the women that they are talking about do not interact with the world at that level. They are too busy taking care of their family, of their
little people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their kids. Like, they're at the park. They're at they're dropping off at, or in her case, she's homeschooling. So she's way, way too busy to be worrying about trying to influence anyone else's children or influence any young women or girls out there.
I think that's what they're implying, is because now that they have this social media pathway, they can actually be influential right from their kitchen, right from the crib, right from their garden. Like, they actually do have a little bit of influence out there with their pride and their flower arranging. See how they are. It's insane to me that cursive is a dog whistle. Gosh in heaven, deliver us. I'm on a watch list now because I have nice handwriting. Right? So critics of tradwives argue the lifestyle is a gateway to sexism and even alt-right ideologies. As with any trend, there's no one-size-fits-all description for every woman who identifies as a tradwife. I guess is that their one consensus? Right.
Like,
And with that being said, it isn't hard to see why those who cover the movement often point out that these women are celebrating regressive beliefs in women's rights.
I'm sorry. At what point did she say, "I don't want to vote anymore," or
Or
I don't
have a
want to,
credit card.
or have like, where was that? I didn't see that in here. Did you?
I mean, I did a whole 30 minutes of scrolling through TikToks, and I probably didn't see that too much. I'm sure they're out there because remember, we're not dealing in absolutes, you know, and even it kind of does say that.
Have to go
And
to the fringes
but
of the
let's see,
internet.
and they also argue that the trend is decidedly anti-feminist.
Who
I
decided
feel
that?
like, well, she said you don't have to be a feminist.
Yeah, she didn't say you shouldn't be a feminist or
Yeah.
couldn't be a feminist.
Not to mention exclusive. Oh, is that a period and then a not and it's not
Yeah,
capitalized? Oh my
yes,
God.
yes.
Punctuation, people. Not to mention exclusive. And this is Katie Couric's thing. So,
Yep,
it's like it wasn't even edited all that well. Not
Nope.
to mention exclusive of the queer and trans communities. Yes, because they're not having babies because they're sterilizing themselves.
Yep. That's a
Like
problem.
that's kind of how that works. That's mostly science, unless you just have like, a partner of a non-birthing variety and one of you is birthing variety, which is totally like if that's your thing and you've found a way to procreate, like, but you're not doing that if you're on a bunch of hormones.
No.
So,
Well, and, like,
it's
did you
tricky.
see
It's tricky.
the-
I mean, even the career women that wait to start having kids in their 40s, like
Mhm.
it's tricky. Like because we have in our society now blown right past all of our very productive years when it comes to
Yes.
like childbearing.
Yeah, it's that's absolute yes, and like there's an article. I have to find it and send it to you. There's an article out there, and it talks about the great lie to women about how you can just freeze your eggs, they'll stay good forever, you'll
Oh,
come
yeah.
back, and when you
Mhm.
want to get pregnant, you just get your partner's sperm or a sperm donor, and you implant, and then you have a baby.
So
And
that's a very popular
Mhm.
college graduation gift. If they are at the end of college and they don't have a prospective partner, but they have a very good job offer, their graduation gift is egg harvesting.
That's insane. That is so like the odds of
I
that
think
working.
it's smart, but I mean, yeah,
It-
it's not 100%
No.
guarantee,
'Cause
but at
that
least
was
it gives them a better chance
Well, yeah, but
than
like
not having it. Freezer burn is a thing. Oh, that's
freezer
so
burn.
sad. That's so sad. But but my thing is like I'm just failing to see how it's like how is it anti-trans or trans, like I just don't understand that part. Like I'm sure
I
there's
don't
I mean
know.
I know a lot of gay men that are really good at flower arranging and
Right?
making a rack of lamb, and they're far more domestic than I am. Like
Mhm.
I don't even really think of domestic as being a super feminine thing. Like it can kind of be a guy's thing too, keeping the house. Like I just it's exclusive of the queer and trans communities. I'm like, again, we're not speaking in absolutes, but I'm like, they're not there participating in this because they've got their own like kind of community, and nobody's saying like they keep other people out of it. You know what I mean? That's like, if they have their community and they have their special challenges and having their kids and I mean having their children is a different story,
Yeah.
and it is not traditional.
No, and like I think so.
So being
Man, that's
traditional is automatically leaving them out because they're not moving forward. I don't see
And
them
it's-
leaving anybody out
yeah,
just
like
because
this
they want to maintain some sort of status quo and they're
Mm-mm.
proud of it.
Yeah, like this is kind of like trying to like you show up to like a party and you have a group that's sitting and talking, you have a group that's playing video games, and you have a group that's like eating pizza. Well, say you don't really like pizza, so you're going to go hang out and play some video games and then maybe go talk to some people, but you don't have to. But like, you shouldn't have to be, you're not excluding the pizza or the pizza group.
It's just not your jam.
Not a thing. So
Yeah.
like, not everything has to be everyone's thing. That's impossible, because I promise you that I can sit through Westerns for days on end. Like, it doesn't matter. I could watch Pale Rider 1,000 times and I'd still love it. Like, it's this concept of just like, because you don't like a thing, that means that you're excluding it. Like, no, I'm not excluding it. I'm not telling everybody else that you can't do the thing. But like with the Western thing, I can watch the Western. My sister will bail on a Western about 6 minutes in. She can't. She doesn't.
I love a
do
Western.
It.
I love a Western.
She doesn't do Westerns. But I'm not like, you're Western exclusionary. Like, no, she's just, it's not her thing. She's into like the rom-coms, which are not so much up my alley. But she loves those things. One of her favorite is called like Friends with Benefits or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that's her thing. And you know, it's not that she's excluding anybody else from, it's not like, oh, I don't like Westerns, so now you can't watch Westerns and nobody else can watch Westerns. I don't care if this is your house. I'm telling you that no one can watch Westerns because I don't like them. That's exclusionary. She just gets up and leaves because she doesn't want to watch a Western.
Right.
It's not exclusionary. She just doesn't want to do it. So I don't understand. They're like, where are their...
You can't understand it. It's completely completely nonsensical. It's like, because she's chosen a certain thing. This is the libertarian in me that's just like, you know what? If you want to do that and it makes you happy and you're proud of like your choices and how happy you are in them, great. Like, more power to you. It doesn't take anything away from me. Like, it you know, it doesn't take anything. It just doesn't matter. But that's why it's like, if you want to stay home and be proud of it and make it, and you know, and make jam, like, I'll come over and eat it. Like, I do, and I'll come over, eat it, and I'll do your hair. It's because I found what makes me really happy, and I've definitely put the effort into pursuing that.
Yeah.
David the gay Republican. I'm just used to saying the gay Republican watched Terror on the Prairie. I think we all have watched Terror on the Prairie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
That was definitely a watch too.
I think day 2 I watched it.
Yeah, we watched it. We watched
good.
it that first week for sure, because we wanted to make sure that we watched it before we went and saw her. I don't know, in Las Vegas or wherever it was we saw her. I can't even remember. We were on tour all summer.
Oh.
Let me just wrap. Yeah, I know, right? In my servitude of being the reluctant entertainment director and travel agent for somebody who doesn't like to travel.
Look, it's just like the German families in the farms, all right? You didn't buy the workforce, you made it. Mm-hmm. So
I'm like, is this part of this? Yeah, I'm gonna say, is this part of the story, or is this? Or are we now in the credits? No, this is part of the story.
Yeah.
For political research associates, Mariel Cooksey, a religion, politics, and conflict MA graduate. Oh God, that sounds like somebody completely overly educated. Defined trade wifery as encouraging women to embrace supposedly feminine characteristics like chastity and submissiveness, and trade feminist empowerment for patriarchal vision of gender. I can't even pronounce that. Patriarchal vision of gender norms, and accepting that women shouldn't work, shouldn't have the right to vote, and okay, well, somebody's got to send me that trad, because I didn't see that.
I didn't either.
I didn't. And if I didn't, I mean, and it could be like, maybe there's that person out there, like how Libs of TikTok finds all those weirdos. Like, maybe there's somebody out there that finds all these weirdos, because I certainly didn't see anything about like regressing to the point where
No.
we don't have the same legal rights. I mean,
Right?
it wasn't that long ago that, yeah, as a woman, you couldn't inherit, you couldn't own land, you couldn't, and it's like, and those are ridiculous. That's ridiculous that you shouldn't be able to have those same rights. Like you couldn't run a business, you couldn't have, your own credit card, like your own bank account. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
But to just finish that out, accepting that women shouldn't work, shouldn't have the right to vote, and should fully submit to their husbands and their faith to live a happy life of homemaking. If I fully submitted to my husband, we wouldn't have a home. we just wouldn't. I don't know where we would be, but we probably wouldn't have one.
Well, because that's the thing too. I think this has gotten, submitting to your husband, I think that's really gotten twisted too, much like the feminist message has gotten twisted, because when the idea behind it is you submit to your husband because when you get married, like, and of course this is from a religious perspective, but
Okay.
the two become one, and so because you are now one soul, he would never do anything to hurt himself, therefore he should never do anything to hurt you. So you trust his judgment, and that what he is saying or what he is telling you is for the betterment of all of you. Like, it's in your best interest because it's in his best interest, because you're one entity. And so, like, submitting doesn't mean you can't disagree or you can't have a say, or you don't have any kind of input on anything, but it simply is like when he makes a decision and he finalizes it, you just support him. Even if it's not the one, if it's not the one that you wanted. But what it's gotten twisted into is, I really do think these women, like, it's right here, they think trad wives want women not to be able to vote. And like, domestic violence is
I didn't see that.
Yeah, like domestic violence is not, like, I'm not saying it never happened or anything like that, but like I'm not saying we want to go back to a time where you get bad men who are liars, cheaters, and beaters.
And they're out there.
They're out there now.
They're out,
Like,
yeah, and they've always been out there, and they're
Yeah.
probably not going anywhere because there's psychopaths on both sides, but it definitely seems to be there. And that's why what you're saying right now makes me think that maybe this article just wasn't well researched, or it was written by somebody that didn't really have any life experience at all. Like maybe
Yeah.
this is like a kid that just, because the way, speaking to what you said, it wraps up the paragraph. She also pointed out that in some circles, being a trad wife also means being a fundamentalist Christian. And so when you use the word fundamentalist, to me, I think of like a fundamentalist Mormon kind of thing, where you
That's what
are
they're
like
talking about.
way over, like, there.
Yep.
And you're living on some freaky cult land, and you give all your money to your church except for like 10% so that you can have a child bride. Like that's just some really weird stuff. So when they're saying a fundamentalist Christian, it's like maybe that's what she is referring to. Like she just didn't understand the concept of becoming one.
No, yeah, and I think that's probably fair, because a lot of people, like I said, it's been forgotten, or it's been pushed to the wayside because it challenges it challenges the narrative to a degree that is damaging. And that's not something that they're gonna like openly discuss, because when you don't have a rebuttal, best thing to do is just like ignore it or push it away or just flat out alter the meeting. And then of course we get the but that's not the only reason that trad wives get flack online. And then you have the pretty conservative who says, like, it's a meme, it says real women support patriarchy. So this is how you know the left doesn't have any freaking humor. Like this is clearly, so when it says real women support patriarchy, what it's actually saying is real women support their men. Like but the patriarchy is literally to like get a rise, because you know it will. And it's funny, like, because men being in charge it's a very natural thing. That's not saying that there aren't women who can't be in charge. You can go through history and see all the women who were boss babes, or whatever. Like, you had freaking Queen Elizabeth I is the reason that Shakespeare became who he became. Literally, it's because of Queen Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are so many women through history who were just incredible, and they reshaped the world. It's not saying that women cannot do it. It's just simply saying that most women, many women, however you want to phrase it, prefer to let their man take the lead, and that's not a bad thing. And I think what's really getting lost in the sauce here is, like, if you want to be that really fierce go-getter female who's just unstoppable, like, do it. Do it.
This is not going to stop you.
Yeah, women wanting to stay home and raise their children isn't going to prevent you from becoming, CFO of Disney, or, I wouldn't recommend working for them right now, but it's there, like, or becoming a photographer at National Geographic, or becoming a marine biologist out in California. These women having these lives are not stopping you. Because if you really wanted to climb Mount Everest, or you really wanted to be an astronaut, you would pursue those things. Like, giving up on something that you claim is your passion because you don't reach it means it wasn't your passion. Because something that you're passionate about, you are going to give every drop of your existence to. Which is why, like, so to kind of loop in the sort of like pop culture war that's going on, Gary has obviously, because none of those, like, he didn't get that collection overnight. Like, he didn't just walk in somewhere and everything that he has on his walls, and everything that's on the shelves, and everything that's hanging from the ceiling, all of his all of his stuff that represents characters that he appreciates, and series that really spoke to him, and stuff that he chose to support. He didn't do all of that in one night. Like, that didn't just happen.
No.
So, like, he stuck with it, even when the comic book shop got it, like, stuff happened, it got hard, he had to sell. That I'm really glad, by the way, that he got his old sign on eBay. That's awesome.
It's so crazy.
That's so awesome. But, like, he's still, even after everything he's been through, he's still on comics, and he's still, like, he loves comics. He loves Doctor Who. He loves Star Trek. I asked him a single question, and he went through a 22-minute discussion. Like, just went, and I was like, cool, we're gonna go on this ride together, and I'm just gonna listen because this is awesome. But that's because it's what he loves. He's passionate about it. It wasn't always easy. He didn't get everything he wanted all the time, and in fact, he had to rebuild his collection more than once, if I remember correctly from what he has said. But he still has it. So if you're willing to give up on a dream of being a high-powered lawyer partner at a prestigious law firm in New York City, and seeing a picture of a wife holding her husband's hand, saying that I'm going to submit to my husband, stops you from pursuing that dream, it's just an excuse at that point. Like, that this is in no way, shape, or form going to prevent you from pursuing your own dreams.
Right. And just to keep going on that whole thing, let's go back to walk the line, right? Because we're talking about women, like, they weren't able to inherit. They weren't able to do, they weren't able to have their own land. They weren't able to vote until, like, around the same time that Black people were. They were not, I think, was like, how far apart was that? I remember it was like a ridiculously short amount of time where it's like, okay, we're going to let all the people vote. I'm all, okay, that's cool. And then in the 70s, I can have a credit card. Yeah. So what we're seeing right now is there was a time where you didn't have all these choices.
Yeah.
And now we're just going to like fight about whose choice is not only like a better choice, but who somebody making a choice is an affront to my choice. I'm like,
right?
Okay,
Like,
that's not how choices work, you guys.
The
Like,
logic is not there. Like, I can't follow what they're trying to say at all.
yeah, so if there's that libs of TikTok, like if there's that person who's got the real weirdos out here that are like, I don't want to vote. Like, again, it's like, I'm sure that they can find that partner for them that thinks that that's okay. And that's why, like, finding somebody in your culture or finding somebody in your church that,
Yeah.
you know, that is as traditional, you know, as, or fundamentalist, or just like whatever, wherever. It's like water finding its own level, right? It's like, you have to, it's like Gary didn't want to be with somebody who was like, you know, a housewife with no direction of their own, because he's got such bad ADHD. It's like, we'd have two people going like, I don't know, what do you want to eat? Like, that would just be our lives, like, all the time. So
until you starve.
until we starve. And it would just be like, you know, he loved, and our younger son, and we laugh about this all the time, like, our younger son one time, like, why are you so bossy to dad? I'm all, dad likes it. It's like, you know, he likes it because, you know what, there's a lot of there's a lot of comfort in that. Like, somebody's gonna have a plan, or somebody's at least gonna have some sort of an answer. But I mean, alternately, what I was sort of spinning out, like having the rug pulled out from under me, like, you know, it's like, you realize it's like, he can have a plan too. But but it's just like, you know, if he wanted to have that, it's out there. And then, like, my older son, he talks about like what he looks for, like what he would look for in a partner, and what he sort of envisions. And, you know, you still have to manage some expectations, but like what he envisions his relationship will be like someday. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, he's just really super logical. So it's like, I hope that she comes to the argument with a spreadsheet and stuff, like, where Gary and I kind of just, because I feel like this is one of those two where it's like the family dynamic plays into things a lot of time, because I'm the older sibling and he's the younger sibling. Sometimes I'm like, okay, we are really falling into like, I'm the older sister and you're the younger and you're just being a brat right now.
Like,
and
now
so,
you're
and
just
so there's some of that. So I think that this just boils down to like, you know, we are in this awesome place of having the choice of like, I can be a lawyer, I can go into politics, I can be a doctor. It's like Cher's, I got that quote where her mom's like, honey, why don't you marry a rich man? And she goes, Mom, I am a rich man. Like, you know, she's like, I've already achieved that. And her own mother wasn't even really recognizing her accomplishments and her building of wealth and her popularity, because what she values, she was just projecting onto her. Like, you're not like, where's your kids and where's your husband and where's your this? And it's like, and because she didn't have those things, she thinks they're not there. And that's exactly what this is. This is all scope. It's all perspective. And now that we have these choices, instead of celebrating all the options that we do have in leading like a very happy and fulfilled life, they're busy pointing fingers at each other.
It's true. I mean, like, we women, just in general, there are obviously exceptions, but you and I, like we said, we've both had female bosses, and they were by far the least empathetic and compassionate and decent. Like, just, but you know, it's why, like, we women really are our worst enemies. Like, just, okay, so she didn't, you know, she didn't join your sorority, and you guys didn't have a secret handshake and do all of the things and everything like that, and she prefers, you know, she dropped out after her first year because they could afford it, and her fiance at the time, now husband, wanted her to, and so she decided, sure, Like, why would you tear that down? Like, just because you kept going through college, it wasn't her path. Like, just let her go. Let her do
that's
it.
that's the projecting the values, like your own values, onto somebody else, like, you know, because you don't see the success in that, because it's not how you would interpret success for yourself.
Yep. It's just crazy. Well, there's still quite a bit of this article to go through, but
are you kidding me?
Oh, no.
That was, I mean, it was so ridiculously long.
Yeah, they have, like, this
will
is,
the trend continue to grow? God, this is somebody
Yeah.
who loves the sound of their own voice. It
Yep.
wasn't like, here, look at this, we found these examples, like,
Yeah.
you should check it out and form your own opinion. Like, this is like just a diatribe against that. So we are now, I'll go down to that one. We are now in the fourth wave of feminism, a movement progressively more focused on diversity, intersectionalism, queerness, and openness about sexual violence and assault than earlier waves. But for all these positive steps, many women have been failed by the compromises of modern feminism and late stage capitalism.
Yep.
Unable to, wow, they just threw everything in this pot.
Everything.
Unable to find a workable solution for the quandary of work-life balance.
No such thing.
Gen Z girls have watched, their working mothers lean into unequal workplaces only to earn less money in a capitalistic system that also devalues their domestic workload.
See, so like right here, they're
the ones devaluing it.
Yes, exactly. This whole article is BS, and it's so hypocritical because they're like, trad wives are dangerous. Trad wives are deadly. Trad wives are a threat. They're conspiracy theorists. It's all right, everything. And then suddenly it's like, but these women, you know, these working mothers, they have to work, and their domestic values, or they're being devalued for their domestic workload.
After we just read 20 paragraphs of them doing that?
Yeah, about how, like, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. It's dangerous because, like, if your husband gets used to it, or if you fall into gender norm roles, like, God forbid, and now all of a sudden the domestic workload is being devalued. Like, you cannot have both. Either you find value in a traditional, see, now I don't even know what it's called anymore. Trad wife, a traditional wife, so a stay-at-home wife, a stay-at-home mom, or you don't. Like, either you see the value in domestic requirements, like, you know, the arranging of the room, the furniture, the bills getting paid, like, all, like, running the household. You either see the value in it or you don't. You cannot have it both ways. And how in God's name is it capitalism's fault? Like,
well, that's what they're saying, because they're unequal in the workplace. I'm like, last time I checked, that's not really true anymore.
Nope.
Right?
Correct.
This is when you start getting to the, like, those kind of the weird TikTokers that are very, like, you have the ones that are sort of like the pro male that point out, like, you know, that they're going to have this, and they are higher rates of suicide, and they have this thing, you know. Even my older son, who's really, really bright, I was talking to him one time about, you know, the equal pay. Like, all we want to do have is this equal pay. And he goes, well, you know, mother, he always does that. He goes, well, you know, mother, he goes, that's not really what you think it is. He goes, because what you're really talking about is a wage gap. And he explained a wage gap to me, which was like, you know, I'm just looking at, like, I work in a hair salon, and, you know, you see all these, like, high dollar men charging these particular prices, and, you know, they can afford to do that because they've never taken any breaks in their career that they've had to rebuild after, like, maternity leave. They've had to rebuild after, they're more likely to own the salon. And it's like, and you can't tell me that's not true, because I had like my partner at work was an older, you know, like 10 years older than me, kind of a silver fox, kind of fabulous gay boy. And every time somebody would come in to talk to the owner, they'd walk up to him. And it's like, he saw it, the staff saw it, the clients saw it. There was just no denying how that went down. And, you know, and just going back to how hypocritical this is, because they've been devaluing this the whole entire way through. Right. And trying to like tie it into like, let's also, while we're doing the patriarchy, bring down capitalism. And you have to remember, in my industry, most of the salons, like I think it's 70% of the salons, are owned by women.
Yeah.
So those are small female, you know, small business owners that are women. If anybody's read, you know, The Handmaid's Tale or watched the series, you know, that's based on that book, the thing that everybody seems to miss about that story is that handbook was written by the woman that was the president. Like it was basically written by the first lady. And it was basically women doing it to themselves. And that is what I'm looking at right here, where it's like, you know, just to say that they're exclusionary because they're staying home, but because of social media, they still have a voice and they can still be prideful about their sad little domestic workload. And sad being, you know, how it's described as being, you know, racist. And a conspiracy theory. That's not my words, that's theirs. You know, slapping them with all of these ugly titles.
Yeah. There's no room for grace anymore in anybody's world. Like, it's just mind-blowing. I don't even know. I mean,
okay, so Proven 22, go over here. Let's go to some of these chats, since this is going to be such a great way to sort of like close this out. This is why feminism makes people crazy, because it's an impossible hypocrisy. It's not. If you just all respect each other's choices, it's not. And you can, and you just have to find your own level of like, and we already said, like, being domestic isn't necessarily a feminine trait, because I know a couple of really buff gay boys that are really like way more domestic than I am. And we're going to talk about feminism here from a couple of like total tomboys that, you know, that's like, you know, been a real struggle to take that on. Like it would have been easy to just keep working and not diversify my life with motherhood. Like that was definitely like, you know, I would be a completely different person without an ounce of patience.
Yes. Yep.
Or empathy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still working on that. Still working on that one. And
aren't we all?
And then, and then David the gamer. David, yes, a daddy. Yes, he's definitely a daddy.
A daddy.
A daddy that makes really good Thanksgiving dinners. And then it's capitalism's fault these women's lives have gotten so easy that they have nothing. Well, that's just this generation too. Like, this is one of those things too, where it's like they have nothing to bitch about, nothing to satiate their boredom. Because, well, again, it's like, if you're really out there living your truth and living your life, then how somebody else is living theirs, like, how is that bumming you out so hard?
Yeah, shy of, as long as they're not doing like human sacrifice in the front lawn
or animal sacrifice.
Yeah, or animal sacrifice, or, you know, like pooping on your porch.
Or like, your bed.
Yeah, like your bed, you know.
Or your bed.
What? But yeah, it's just like, of course we're not saying, oh, well, so does that mean if we see neglect of a child or an animal or something like that, we shouldn't say anything? Like,
well, that wouldn't be very domestic of us, would it?
Right? Like,
not if we're making children our priority, is it?
Exactly. And like when people say stuff like that, that's how you know they don't have a real argument against any of this, because you shouldn't have to go to that extreme to make your point. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's like, I'm sorry, does somebody staying home and making bread really make you think we're going to someday lose our right to vote?
I know. It's insane. Good
And
Lord.
honestly, I think that it comes down to like, certain rights that people think that they've lost recently, and who they think they have to blame for that. Which is, what did you say? A slippery slope.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just, and it, oh gosh.
But it's like, do you think they're going to come and take my credit card away? No.
You
And you know
my
why?
cold dead hand.
Because capitalism wants my money in the economy.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I just, yeah, that whole article just, man alive. And frankly, I've never actually, all the stuff that I've seen, all the people that I've met and spoken to, only one time was I ever like made to feel like an outsider, because he was a jerk. He was a D-bag. Like, the guys all dropped him pretty quick too, because he couldn't keep his mouth shut. He always crap talked, and didn't care about like the students. So like, I just don't understand how we go from latchkey kids who can Tamagotchi and make mac and cheese, do all these things, and 90s kids who are watching Power Rangers and Transformers and building snowmen out of erasers. Like, how do you look at trad wives and honestly think that they're trying to destroy that? Like, it sounds very counterintuitive to their whole message. Just my opinion.
Well, it's just like somebody who doesn't want to eat the pizza. Like, I just look at that as like more for me.
Right?
And that's exactly how I look at this. I'm like, somebody should stay home and keep those traditions alive, and I'm glad it's not me.
There you go.
And it's like, I don't have any interest in it, but I also don't think they're going to undo. I just don't see this as this threat that's out there. And honestly, I think the threat is coming from this media group. And I think the threat is really towards them, because they're slapping these ugly sort of like labels on people who just want to be proud of their life choice. I'm like, where's their like, are we going to have like, they're going to be this like little pocket of things now? It's like, and we're worried that the young girls might see this and they might want to stay home and have children. Oh my God, that's fucking terrifying. Like,
yeah, all that bread that we can eat that we don't have to bake or clean up after.
Exactly.
The horror. I'll say it again. Horror, since Gary can't.
The horror.
We're gonna.
But so I'm sure we'll find another really fun article for next week. I think I already had something in mind, so we can do this again.
Sweet. Well, I will go ahead. Let me go ahead and boom. We'll make you center stage.
Hello.
Where can they find you? Where can they hang out with you?
Here when I come on with you. I have an Instagram. Yes. But honestly, it's like I just post beauty stuff there, so it's not terribly interesting to everyone. Otherwise, I'm here making sandwiches and smoothies.
Delicious sandwiches.
Spoiling my YouTuber and being subservient, which would make him laugh his ass off if he ever thought that for a second.
Be like, wasn't that so submissive of me? Aren't you happy? I bet he'd spit his sandwich out. He'd laugh so hard.
Right?
Oy vey. Well, yes. So go check out Agent Bossy Boots on Instagram. She is on Twitter, but she's way more active on Insta. And she's
been trying to pick up my Twitter more.
Yeah, but she's definitely the glue that is holding the nerdrotic, eclectic house together. Because what do we have? We have like a savant genius of Perry Chan, quarter black Garrett, and then the Asian Canadian or the Canadian Asian X-ray girl. Like,
yes, like the Asian Canadian.
The Asian Canadian. Like, Gary is the most diverse hirer employer, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, just like look at the ratio. Literally all minorities.
Well, that's the thing too, is like, with the hair salon that I had, it's like you're not going to find anything more diverse than a hair salon in San Francisco. Like, diversity was never the issue. And I mean, I relocated there actively seeking that out.
Man, oh man.
But
what a world. What a world. Well, thank you for coming on and talking to me. And I do apologize for being late and then boomering the live button. Good
if
times.
you didn't, yeah. And well, I'm sorry, I'm not more help. Kalia does that too. I do a vamp cast, with Kalia, and we talk about things that are like supernatural. We're going to talk about werewolves. We talk a lot about vampires. We've been covering Vampire Academy, the series, the movie, and the books. But that's sort of, I mean, honestly, this has just been like good hangout social time.
Yeah.
Because I got so much other stuff going on.
Don't we all? This was much needed. I appreciate it, girl. Thank you.
I appreciate it too.
And everybody in the chat, I absolutely appreciate you too. Thank you all for the insanely generous super chats. I know it's just because Melissa's here. She just brings them in. It's fantastic. But thank you guys in the chat. You guys make this totally worth it. It's always fun to see your guys' comments and what everybody's up to, and kind of like your response to what we're saying as well. Because what's really interesting, if you go back through and you read, like, not everybody agrees with what we're saying, and that's totally fine. Because again, I want you to make decisions that are best for your life, as long as whatever you're doing doesn't involve like the direct harm of another individual, i.e., slaughter, mayhem, stuff like that.
No purge. No purges.
Right? Yeah, no purge. Like it's literally not my place. Like, I'm gonna tell you my views, I'm gonna tell you what I think, but I'm not gonna be like, this is what I think, this is what I believe, this is what I think. You need to think and believe the same way too. No, I'm just gonna be like, hey, it's we can always talk about it. It's there if you want, this, that, and the other. But I'm not gonna attempt to. Oh gosh, this is gonna sound so bad. I'm not gonna attempt to convert by force. If that makes like.
Well, honestly, I've gotten to the point, because I'm in my 50s now. I've gotten to the point where I don't even really offer advice to anybody that doesn't actively ask me for it.
It's a good, wise decision.
Yeah, because I was like, you know what? I'm sorry, but it's like my advice and my experience actually has value.
Yep.
And I've stopped giving it away so freely.
Yes, but you had so many good things to say tonight, which I genuinely appreciate. So, guys, follow Agent Bossy Boots on Twitter and Insta. Also, the Nerdrotic official channel is over there. Do not forget, the only giveaways that Nerdrotic does is the Swag Sundays on Instagram from their official
Thank you for that
account.
Thank you.
Yes, like,
their
guys,
Telegram is a scam.
It's a scam. Don't click it. If you see any type of like message or alert that says from Nerdrotic that says you've won, click the link. It's not real. It is a scam 1000%. So please don't click on it. And also make sure you head over to geekgrind.com. Geek Grind Coffee. That, Lord in heaven, I'm tripping over my tongue. Nerdrotic, it's the official sponsor for FNT. And when are you going to get your brew? Do we know?
I don't know. They have the Geek Grind. They were actually in Colombia, and so I'm waiting for them to get back into the office and connect on that.
Very cool. And I'm excited to see it and smell it, and for my husband to taste it, since I don't like coffee. I know everybody, like, it's just all right. I've said it on Twitter a few times. I'll probably go say it again, but like it tastes like dirt to me. I can't. I don't know why. And like tea tastes like trees. I'm not sure what it is.
I suppose you don't like cilantro either.
No, I do like cilantro. I don't know why. That might
Oh
be
my
the-
God. Somebody put
they're Italian.
only 14 hours till
Hours until
FNT.
17.
Okay, I gotta go.
Yes. Yeah. You do. All right. So, guys, much love in the chat. Thank you, Asian Bossy Boots, for coming on. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Love you all so much. And,
Ciao for
just
now.
have a good one. Bless. Godspeed. Much love. Bye.
Bye.